The end of the season is on the horizon, and the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series moves to its final European stop on the calendar before the 3 flyaway races to round off the season. Championship leader Gregor Huttu has scored 7 victories and carries a lead of over 100 points in the driver's standings over chief rival Hugo Luis, and the Brazilian knows that today's result is a must-win, otherwise he faces the real possibility of being forced to surrender his championship chances, meaning today could turn out to be a landmark race in the championship. Meanwhile, Atse Kirchhoff has a very realistic chance of his first victory of the season at his home event, and teammate Luke McLean could be a dark horse after claiming pole position last season. What lies in store will reveal itself as we take to the track once again in the world's fastest and most competitive sim racing championship. It's Circuit Park Zandvoort for round 13 of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, live and exclusive here on GlacierTV. Good afternoon everybody, welcome to the broadcast. Now if you're wondering, this isn't Will Vincent, I'll explain. We've got 2 commentators who aren't normally Will here in the broadcast booth. I'll explain. My name's Scott Woodwiss. I've got experience of about 1.5 years commentating on sim racing broadcasts. And I've been joined by my very good friend who I've commentated many a time before, Mr. Nick Rowland. Good afternoon, Nick.
Good afternoon, Scott, and this is a real privilege to be able to do iRacing, an iRacing broadcast. It's the first time ever I've done any iRacing coverage, and yeah, it's going to be a bit different going from FSR WC to the iRacing WC, I guess.
Absolutely, I think that's you and me both. I have to say a massive thank you to Will Vincent, who unfortunately has been taken ill, but he's given myself and Nick the very, as he said, the very huge honour and privilege to be able to cover, as we mentioned, the world's fastest and most competitive sim racing championship out there. So the fact that we've been able to cover it here on Glacier TV for you guys is a real honour for us to do that, and we'll try and uphold the kind of standard of coverage that Will and everyone here at Glacier TV loves to put on for the season. So as we said, we're here at Circuit Park Zandvoort then for round 13 of the championship. And we're here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. This circuit then has been around since 1949, 1948 I should say. It used to be about 4.2 kilometres in length, in fact it still is, but it used to be a lot longer circuit. It used to be winding through the dunes here, which was fantastic. Then they changed the circuit back in 1995. And that record here is actually held by a man called Earl Goddard in a 1994 Benetton B194. That was set back in 2002 in the historic Euroboss single-seater series. The guys here are going just a bit faster than that today because pole position has been in the 1-minute 10s, and we'll get to the grid in just a moment for you because qualifying has finished. But this is a very intriguing circuit here, and it's a circuit, Nick, obviously I'm pretty sure you've driven it on a couple of times before. It's a circuit that really, there's not really a moment to relax because it's very twisty, very windy, but there are some extremely high-speed sections that will really test just how brave you are to take some of the corners.
Absolutely, it's not really used much for Formula 1, but the nature of the high-speed cars and how short the lap is, it's a very active lap that you don't get much respite at all, and these guys have got 71 laps worth of it as well, so it's going to be a massive challenge for these guys around Zandvoort, and I think they're all up for it, especially with how qualifying's just progressed.
Absolutely, and we can take you through the qualifying results just now. I'm pretty sure they'll be up on my screen, and it is in fact luck of qualifying. It's okay, right? So championship standings. In fact, apologies for that. So championship standings and going into round 13, and as you can see, it is Gregor Huttu of Finland taking the lead in the championship with, as Mears makes no difference, 500 points. He has a 107-point lead over his main championship rival Hugo Luis, and as we said, this is going to be an absolutely crucial race for Hugo. He needs effectively to win this race and score as many points as he can to keep himself in the championship hunt, because effectively, Nick, if he has a bad race today, that's pretty much game over for him in the championship.
Yeah, it's pretty critical that he stays within contention, doesn't finish lower than 7 points if Gregor actually wins the race. So it's a balancing act, and you know he's got to push on as he has done all season. But it's going to be very close, and I think strategy will be the big thing here today for them.
Absolutely, and also looking back in third position, Atse Kirchhoff, he's been up thereabouts. He scored himself 8 top 10 finishes. His average start is 4th, and his average finish is 6th. So he's done a fantastic job there to keep himself in the contention, quite a way back. But of course, if things happen to Huttu, at least he could get himself possibly in the hunt for second position should Luis's championship charge not fall off, not come about. Also, we've got in 4th position Jake Sturgios with 277 points, and then Fulvio Barazzini in P5 in the standings with 236. And the rest of the top 10 is Stephen Michaels with 225, Marty Piatella with 196. A great battle going on here, but for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th here. You've got Martin Kroenke with 194. Luke McLean's looking very strong here today, 193 points. And then rounding out the top 10 is Mogarfilo with 173 points. So top 10, especially down the bottom there, could see quite a few changes if one or two drivers have a bad race today, Nick.
Yeah, there could be a big shake in the standings, and like you said, especially towards the front of the field, these guys need to make sure they don't get caught up any instants early on in the race, and the strategy that they play will dictate that. Because I don't know how these guys look at the moment, but I think it's going to be between a 1 and 2 stop at the moment by the looks of it.
Well, I think the information that we got is that if the leaders, if they're lapping about half a second quicker, then obviously you can tell exactly what strategy they're on. If they're lapping half a second quicker than the others, at least per lap, then they're going to be on a 2-stop strategy because they'll have the lighter fuel load, be able to take advantage of that. If they're running heavier and much slower lap times, of course they'll be going for a 1-stop. And these tyres can last the distance. We've seen them last roughly around 30 odd laps before they have to come in and make a pit stop. So looking back down here as well, also what's pretty crucial is that now they're the bottom, of course the top 25 in the standings get automatic safety for next season, and outside of that the drivers below that get bumped down to the Pro Road Racing Series, which is kind of like the GP2 of this iRacing World Championship Series. You get kind of drivers trying to come through the ranks, and of course if they're good enough, they'll then eventually make their way up to the top level. And drivers down there, one surprise actually is Pablo GoPro Lopez. He's down in 27th position there. Not had very good luck today, and maybe we can get some more information on that, because we've actually got our guest commentator today is actually a man who's part of the Radicals team, Mr. Paul. Apologies for that. We've got Paul. Rob Cuss. Sorry about that, Rob. Good afternoon, Rob.
Good afternoon. How you doing? Yeah, Pablo can't make the race today. Other commitments, so we've only got 2 drivers representing. But it's going to be tough. We've found it tough this season, to be fair. But seasons are 2 halves, and we're pretty much halfway. So the guys will be looking to improve.
So apologies for calling you Paul there, my mind went completely blank on that one. I do apologise on that one. But let's just take your view on the actual championship standings, of course, because we look here, of course, we said, and Greg has got over a 100-point lead here, and just in your view, how crucial, as we talked about the championship fight, if Luis doesn't have a good race here, he's also at very risk of not only missing out the championship, of also missing out on second place, because if Kirchhoff's is the quick as people have been saying he is today, and he doesn't score any points today, Kirchhoff could really pounce on that and take advantage.
It's going to be definitely close for the number 2, number 3 spot. I mean, Hugo is too consistent not to finish second, in my opinion, and that is only my opinion. But actually, will push him hard. I think Gregor's got it sewn up, unless I don't know, he gets eaten by a pterodactyl or something like that. He's not going to lose this. So, but it's just it's a question of when, not if. Sorry, that. Gregor wins the title, and he's deserved it. He's been so consistent, and Hugo, I think, has missed some of his teammates that were in the championship last year, like Martin Kroenke and that. So that I think that's his biggest loss for this season, is just a couple of his teammates to give him a bit of support. But he's still done well.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely see exactly how these guys can get on moving forwards into the race session. I think we've just roughly got about 4 minutes until we get started here at the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Of course, we may as well say a thank you to our 3 sponsors, of course, today, who have been brought fantastic support to Championship. First of all, we'd like to say thank you to the WCS tipping from teamredline.co.uk. Also, of course, thank you to iRacing.com. Of course, without their simulation, wouldn't be possible. Voted #1 racing game and simulation of 2012. So congratulations to them, and we thank you for them for their continued support. And also to ETV Live for their professional broadcasting services and being able to bring you here all the live action this afternoon here on GlacierTV. Now, one thing we should also talk about today is that these guys are actually running a brand new tyre compound today. I guess we can get both Rob's view on this one, also Nick as well. Nick, they're running a brand new tyre compound today, so that's going to really change the dynamic of how these guys use the tyres. Now, I've heard apparently these tyres give more grip on the rear, so that's going to cause a lot more understeer. So, as a driver yourself, of course, you have to adapt with different, because you sim race yourself. With different tyre compounds, when you get a new tyre compound, a harder tyre compound, how will that change how the driving style of some of the guys out there? Because they're really going to have to adapt with the more understeer that they get out there today.
It's the key word you just said there is adapt. You have to adapt to the nature of the car. Hard tyres, soft tyres. You know, you have to, especially when you change them within a season, you have to adapt quite quickly. and it can favour some drivers and not favour others. So it's all about trying to balance an act of getting it right at the specific time. The new tyre models come in for this race now also, and I believe we'll have an interview later on with one of the guys from iRacing that will actually explain the changes to the new tyre model. So yeah, very much looking forward to seeing how it progresses today and how these guys actually deal with it.
Well, it will be an intriguing spectacle, and we've got 3 minutes left to go to the race session itself. And what we'll do is we'll take you through how they've lined up then in qualifying for this afternoon's event, and this is how it shapes up then on the grid. And any Dutch fans watching, you're in for a treat, because Atse Kirchhoff, your man, has stuck it on pole position with a 1 minute 10.886, and the only man to join him in the 1 minute 10s is actually championship leader Gregor Hutu, 1 minute 10.965. So these two guys really setting the benchmark here today. Kirchhoff could potentially take his first victory of the season at his home event, and of course Gregor Hutu looking for win number 8 of the season, and that will definitely strengthen his championship charge. The second row of the grid is Hugo Luis and Luke McLean. Hugo again must win race for him today, or at least get some decent points to stop Gregor Hutu from taking another world championship. And Luke McLean took pole here last year, couldn't quite manage it this time, but he is still up on row 2 with a great chance of putting in a great time. Row 3 we've got Ilka Hapola and also Martin Kroenke on row 3. Row 4 is going to be Mogar Filo and Enzo Benito, and then rounding up the top 10 we've got Alexi Usi-Yakola, and also then Emil Spindel rounding up the top 10 as well, and then Andrew Butcher and Jake Sturgios on row 6. And then what I'll do is, Nick, if you want to do the honour of doing the rest of the grid, and I'm sure we've got a couple of minutes to start, so you can go from 13th downwards. Yeah,
13th down, we've got Marty Piatilla, and we then have in 14th place Jason Lovett. 15th place is Ben Cornett, with 16th place man Simon Cattell. 17th is Dion Vergers, and 18th place is Fulvio Barazzini. 19th place is Joni Tormola, and 20th place is Paul Elbrink. I just want to say, if I do get any of these names wrong, I do apologise. 21st is Alexi Eloma. 22nd place is Timo Ivanen. 23rd is Petteri Kutavara. 24th place is Matthias Egger. 25th is Miguel Martin. We carry on down through the field. We then have 26th place Michele Mancusi, with 27th Paolo Muia. 28th is Uday Naramui. 29th is Christian Lorente. 30th is Fabio Ducarmo. 31st is Marcus Caton. 32nd place is Pierre Urabitsu. I again apologise for some of these names, I'm trying here. 33rd is João Pinho. 34th is Thiago Orfao. 35th is Wes Richards. 36th is Riesco.
Okay, apologies for that. The top 20 sorry.
Yes, it was the top 20. I was going through the full qualifying session results there, so I guess you get an idea of the other drivers that were trying to get into the race, but it was the top 20 that went through.
Absolutely. So these guys are now getting onto the grid right now. Just to make a mention, that Enzo Benito is going to be starting from the pit lane due to a penalty from last time out. So that's going to be a key part of that race to see exactly how that plays out in the race. Cars are starting to grid up now, as we said, and of course there's no formation. Guys,
well, Scott just tried to sort that out there. We are just getting ready for the race now, as with the cars lining up onto the grid. Hopefully Scott will return momentarily, but in the meantime, yep, there we go. We've got Scott back with us now, thankfully.
Yep, hopefully so. Apologies if I do lag out. I've tried my best to make sure nothing interferes with how everything looks on the screen, but we'll try and keep tabs of that as we look here. So,
it seems Scott's still got some problems, so we're giving him a try and sort those out. We have the red lights are on, and we are pretty much ready to go, and we're off with a great start to further down the grid from Alessia Loma, who's flown down the right hand side towards the pit wall as they head into turn 1.
Yeah, into one, and Gregor Hutu got a great start, but it was Atse Kirchhoff that made it into turn 1 the best. But Gregor Hutu and there's a crash behind as well. It's all kicking off behind. Greg Hutu and Atsay Kirchhoff have escaped at the front with a great start from Greg Hutu, but it was the ballsy one in turn 1.
It seems Jake Sergius has gone off, and Ilka Happler as well is in the tyre ball, which is a shame. It looked like a good start for both those and just went off in turn 2. But it seems to be Atsy's got the jump and he's trying to pull out a gap.
Right, hopefully I should be back. Hopefully I'm not lagging too much. I do apologise on that one. I've tried everything to make sure I don't lag too much. But coming towards the end of that now, it's still that leading from... And then P3 back there is still Hugo Luis. Top 5,
yeah,
they head through the
Scott's, I think Scott's still lagging a little bit there, but out in front, these guys are pulling away at the front. It's been a great start for both these drivers. And unfortunately, Phil Kapler there, and he looked like he had front left suspension damage, which is has put him out of the race already. But Atsay Kirchhoff is being closed down by Greg Hutu. Actually, Greg Hutu was great under braking going through turn 1 there. Superb under braking. He is closing in on him. He's got much tighter lines than what Atsay has at the moment, and he's starting to make an impression. Oh, huge oversteer moment for Atsay Kirchhoff there as he came out of the hairpin. A bit of a moment out of turn 3 as they cascade through the mountainside here at the moment as well, coming down to the very fast section of the track up at turn 6 and towards turn 7. And this is where Atsay stretches legs a little bit now. So under braking the technical part of the first sector, Greg Hutu is very, very good. But Atsay Kirchhoff, middle sector, he started to pull away again. So controlling those rear tyres, obviously, like I said, we said before, there's a new tyre model that's introduced, and these guys at the front doing a very good job with it.
Yeah, doing a great job. Obviously, fuel loads are huge around this track because of the point and shoot nature of the track and the twisty sections. So the more fuel you've got in, the heavier car is, it wallows around. So the Red Line boys could be on a different fuel strategy. Actually, could be slightly lighter, but obviously that will play out further in the race. Hugo Luis not far behind, and Luke's hunting him. Luke McLean is hunting him down. And P16, we have Peri Cotavara looking to make the move on, looks like Paul Ilbrink around the outside.
Great move as well. He's trying to go all the way around the outside.
He's got it done.
Atsay did this at the start. It was Gregor that got a better start, but he went around the outside of turn 1 and held that high line. And Peri Cotavara has gone around the outside and made a brilliant move there. And he'll try and now chase down Joni Tormala.
Yeah, the My 3RD cars are quick, so it's going to be hard for him to close down. But Pateri's awesomely quick when he's got his mind in the right place, and hopefully that's today, because he's an entertaining driver to watch for sure.
Yeah, he's had a good start here, and he's looking like he's already started to close that gap to the drivers in front of him as well, which has been superb, this middle sector for him. And it's a little bit, his dust kicks up there from Joni Tormala, but he's getting closer to him as the drivers are filtering round on the second lap, and they're doing pretty well at the moment on lap 3. And Atsay Kirchhoff and Greg Hutu are currently split by just 0.8 of a second. And as you said, the time out front, it could be differing on tyre strategy and the fuel as well. But I believe it's around about lap 4. If they've got a 4-second lead, we should start to understand what sort of strategy these drivers are on.
Exactly. It looks like Aleski Aloma's gone into pit road. So, Aleski, that's the other Aleski's gone into pit road. As Aleski's made the move on Paul Wilbrink, who could have a heavier car than the guys that have gone sailing past him, because he looks like he's got a heavy car. As Aleski and Pateri have just left him standing, to be honest, and Christian Arente is looking dangerous behind him as well.
Yeah, Peri Cotavara in particular, he's really closed down Joni Tormala now, and I think he's illustrating the differences of fuel loads with Paul Ilbrink going backwards and Aleksi Loma and Peri Cotavara coming forwards, and doing a great job with it, and starting to get onto the rear end of the top 10.
Yeah, and just further up front we have Luke McLean, who's under pressure from Martin Kroenke, who's missed most of the season. And this is what I alluded to earlier at the start of the show. Martin's quite he's the main guy at my 3RD really, so he's looking rather racy. His car looks a lot more settled, and he's using less track but carrying more speed than Luke McLean in front. So we'll see how this battle erupts.
Yeah. Change of position. Hilbrink got past Alexei Aloman there, but there's also a battle between Simon Cattell and Emil Spindel over 7th and 8th. Simon Cattell was very, very close, and he's just dropped back slightly now through the mid-sector, going through turns 6 and 7, but they were pretty close, and that change of position has already happened. The gap out front, though, is Alexei Kirchhoff has a lead of 1.2 seconds to Gregor Hutu, and then it's a gap for the second back to Hugo Luis. Luke McLean is 3.5 seconds off the race lead, so he's going well at the moment and holding position, but that could be potentially a different fuel load and tyre strategy for Hugo Luis. He's 3.5 seconds off, we're on lap 5, so yeah, there could be that different strategy that he's decided to go for in comparison to Atsay and Gregor here.
Exactly. Just to let you know, with the red line guys, it actually generally tends to pit first, so that'll give us a bit of an indication. But just back to the Luke McLean Martin Cronke battle. Martin has closed himself down, but not quite close enough as we drop back to Jason Lovett and Andre Boccia and Fulvio Berrezzoni. Looks like Boccia has lost 2 places, one to Jason Lovett and one to Fulvio Berrezzoni, who obviously is a race winner this season already. And yeah, it's good fun in the mid-pack. This track's really raceable, and a lot of the drivers comment they do enjoy driving flat out even though the lap is busy.
Very, very busy lap, and as soon as you get down towards turn 12, it's all about the exit from turn 12 to see if, because turn 13 is completely flat, and you've got to make sure you get that good drive. If you get in the toe and get down into turn 1, there's a couple of different lines. You can take a very, very high sweeping line, as we've seen already from Petteri Kotavara, and you can make that pass stick around the outside, and he's done a great job of it. And Fulvio Berrezzoni has now dropped that down to 12th position, and Andrea Boccia is trying to close down on Jason Lovett and Ben Cornett.
That's brilliant racing all through the field. I've just noticed it looks like Hugo Luis a little bit closer to Gregor Hutu than he has been in previously. It looks like he's closed down a couple of car lengths.
He's really closed the gap outright as well, because he was nearly at 3 seconds off. He's now down to 1.8 to the race leader, Atsay Kirchhoff. So Hugo Luis is on a mission at the moment, and he is getting very close to Gregor Hutu. Luis is closer to Hutu than Hutu is to Kirchhoff. And Kirchhoff at the moment has got a nice buffer of 1.2 seconds, and there's a very, very active and fast lap. He's making it work for him, but this is going to be all about concentration. 71 laps of this place, and it's going to be very, very challenging for these drivers to keep their concentration level.
Yeah, and we're currently on board with Hugo Luis, chasing down his main title contender, well, the title leader, in front, Gregor Hutu, and yeah, Hugo Luis wants this. Oh, it's so late on the brakes compared with Gregor there as well, and he closed at least three car links on him there, but just doesn't quite get the exit.
Yeah, it was a little bit deep in the line. It didn't quite work out for him. He braked very, very late and took a lot of the outside curbing before the hairpin down in turn 11, the Audi S, and he nearly got it sorted out, but it allowed the straight advantage to go to Gregor Hutu, and Gregor Hutu now was again, look at the braking difference there for Hugo Luis as he goes into turn 1 there. He's superb under braking in comparison to what Gregor Hutu is, but Gregor seems to have the exit sorted out. Again, a tighter line for Hugo Luis down in turn 3 and 4, and but again on exit, Gregor Hutu's able to pull away.
Yeah, it looks like Gregor's got the car set up for corner exit, and Hugo's got the car set up for corner entry, so a bit of sort of a Button Hamilton-esque competition going on. Hamilton likes being late on the brakes, whereas Button likes to drive through and out of a corner. So different driving styles highlighted by 2 of the best drivers in the world right now.
Absolutely. It also illustrates the differences between the drivers, even though they're on a completely new tyre model as well, but they're able to manipulate the car and find the setup that they want to suit themselves best. And the new tyre model hasn't changed their driving styles, not needed to change their driving styles, and they're doing a great job of it at the moment. Again, on corner exit, Gregor Hutu pulls away, and it's not allowed in Hugo Luis to get anywhere near him.
Exactly. Just a little bit further down the pack, we do have a battle appearing for 7th and 8th between Emil Spindel and Simon Cattell. They're not separated by a lot at all. It's 6 car lengths, and Cattell looks to have a little bit more straight line speed with his car, and Ben Cornett is hovering with intent just behind.
Yeah, they're lurking. He's lurking. And Hugo Louis again has closed a little bit more on Gregor Hudec, but he's still not been able to make that much more of an impression. And the gap at the front between Gregor and Atse is out to 1.6 seconds. So Atse Kirchhoff at the moment is the man that has the raw pace, but Hugo Louis is trying to close down on Gregor Hudec, and the gap between the race leader and Hugo Louis is 2.3 seconds. So yeah, Atse Kirchhoff, the man with the pace at the moment.
Yeah, he's a super fast driver and model professional, really. Look, just behind these guys that we were alluding to, there is another red line My3RD battle, and that's Luke McLean and Martin Kroenke, and they are separated by about a car's length right now as they head down one of the long straights into the just before the start-finish straight. So they're just coming through the last turns down, head on start-finish, and there's not much in this.
Yeah, they're even closer than what the guys in front are. Martin Kroenke is going to get in the draft and get very, very close to him, but I don't think he'll be able to make an impression down to someone. Again, Martin Kroenke looks like he's the one that's on the man on the brakes, as Luke McLean has gone a little wide, kicked up some outside dust, and again he's done exactly the same thing. He looks like he's batting a little bit of understeer at the moment, and Martin Kroenke is trying to capitalise and get as close to that rear wing as he possibly can.
So it looks like the My3RD cars are awesome on the brakes, and the red line cars are awesome on corner exit. So similar driving styles being employed by McLean and Hudec, and similar driving styles with Hugo and Martin. So interesting battles between these teams. As I'm going to look a little bit further down the field and see how the Spindell and Cattell battle is going on. Looks like Spindell's managed to pull out a little bit of advantage over Simon Cattell. Ben Cornett is getting a little bit close to Cattell, but seems to not be able to close down the gap as much as he would like. Obviously the battle still rages just behind with Jason Lovett, Fulvio Berrezzoni, Andre Boccia and Joni Tamala. They're still locked in competition. There's a little gap between the two of Boccia and Tamala, but it seems to change on the straight. It seems like the cars just behind them actually quicker on a straight line, as Berrezzoni just managed to pull out a little bit more of a gap just on the straight there, so he must have got a better corner exit. A little bit further down we've got Christian Lorente and Dion Verges running in 16th and 17th, and I'm going to pop you over to Nick, because we're going to go back to the start and have a little look at what happened there. So I'm just pop you over to Nick.
Yeah, just having a look at the race start again here, and it's Ilke Happler we're hopefully going to see the most of, and he got a good start, and on the outside, Drogon just diving on the inside. Ilke Happler though, he takes that outside line and gets it all sorted out. He gets through the first corner nicely, and then he goes through. Oh, he gets a massive hit there. That was a huge hit that he took there. I couldn't quite see which driver that was, but he took a huge hit, and that's what broke the front left suspension and put him straight into the wall. And the rear right, he had a huge hit, that rear right, and spun him straight across. And that was the end of Ilke Happler's race there, unfortunately. But it was a solid start for him. He made it through turn 1 and turn up towards turn 2 and 3, and it just ended badly for him.
It's a shame. While we were watching that, Jake Sturgis just had contact with Aleski Yakala and is currently on pit road. He's currently just leaving pit road to see if his car's too severely damaged. So, as Jake was running around P20 mark until that accident, and he just headed out of pit road just to check the damage on his car. So we will see how he progresses. So we'll have a quick rundown of the top 10. P1, your leader is Atse Kirchhoff. He's currently got a 2-second advantage over Gregor Hudec. Then it's Hugo Louis, Luke McLean, Martin Kroenke, Marty Patera, Emil Spindell, Simon Cattell, Ben Cornett and Jason Lovett. That rounds out your top 10 with Fulvio Berrezzini P11, Andrew Boccia 12th, Joni Tamala 13th, Pateri Cotofaro 14th, Paul Ilbrink 15th, Christian Lorente 16th, Dion Verges, Timo Evenen and Hyundai Narami and Aleski Aloma run out your top 20.
Yeah, and Atse Kirchhoff out front is 2.2 seconds the gap now, and I could see as he came down to the Audi S section how late he was under braking and got right up over the curbing. he is really on the mission at the moment. 1.2 then further back for Hugo Louis from Gregor Houtu. And these drivers, they're starting to spread a little bit now. There's a field spread starting to emerge with Luke McLean. He's 5.7 seconds off the lead. Martin Cronke is 6.3. So that field spread's starting to happen now. And the closest guys we believe we have is Emil Splendel and Simon Kittel. That's over 7th and 8th position at the moment.
Yeah, they're running actually a similar gap to Luke McLean and Martin Cronke. They're pretty close as well. Again, it's a gap that changes because it seems some of the cars they've set up to be on the brakes corner entry, but a lot of the other drivers are using the new tyre compound and getting much better exit speeds than before and pulling that gap, so it's like a little jostle front and back. And we're just going to drop back to we've got a little battle going on between Joni Tomala and Petteri Kotavara, who are racing hard as always as they come down the front stretch looking to turn 1. We'll see if Petteri can close up on the brakes as they head down. And this hairpin's great because it's got camber on it, so it's like it shoots you out of the out of the curve, which is pretty awesome. It's great fun to drive.
Yeah, it is. Kotavara, again, he's another driver that's very, very good under braking. He's not got the exit out of turn 3 though, which is compromised him in trying to close down on Joni Tomala. But Petteri's had a good start to this race, and I know Petteri from actually a few years ago. I've not seen him do any of his iRacing bits, but when he was back on R-Factor, I saw Petteri drive a few races, and he's improved vastly, especially now he's come over to iRacing, and Petteri's sitting in 14th place, closing in on Joni Tomala, and making a good job of it at the moment. So good job for Petteri. And again, he's another driver that looks good under braking in comparison to Joni Tomala, who's set up for exits. And I think we're seeing quite a consistent choice on line and what the drivers are doing here.
Sorry to jump in. Actually, just 2 ticks up the road, I just saw it as they went into the corner there. I was watching the same battle you were. Fulvio Borosini and Andre Boccia were so close to each other then, and it looks like Boccia's just in the draft, so we'll see if he can make a move down into turn 1. Doesn't quite get it done. Borosini gets a little bit loose and allows Boccia just to get up on his gearbox, but doesn't quite get the exit speed. So through this tight and twisty section, Boccia's just got to hold this line, just keep tidy and let pressure Borosini into getting a mistake. He's a lot closer now, so this section's super fast, left right flicks, and he's got to bide his time. Has a little look, lets him know he's there, but doesn't quite get it done. But there is a braking zone coming up, and it's not this corner, it's the next corner as they head in. Doesn't decide to chuck it down. There's a few lines you can do there. You can go round the outside, or and cut, or you can follow the same line as the others did and go there. He didn't try to make the move, which is a bit surprising because I thought he was close enough.
Yeah, it's getting very, very close to him. Andre Boccia on Fulvio Barosini, and Barosini is he's trying to set up for the exits at the moment to make sure that Andre Boccia can't get a run. But every time, here we go again. Now let's see if he can get into the draft as he comes around the final corner. He got close on the last lap. Let's see if he can get even closer on this lap. He's going underneath the Zandvoort sign and past the pits and coming into turn 1. Will he go late on the brakes? He does go late, but not late enough to be able to make a pass. Looks to the outside, can't get it done though. And Fulvio Barosini holds on to 11th position at the moment.
Yeah, he's trying. It's figuring out where. It's a game of chess, isn't it? You got to look and talk, where's he a bit slow? Where can I make the time up? It looks like Aleski Loma's had an issue and he's dropped a few spots. So we're trying to figure out what happened to Aleski. Maybe he dropped it off the circuit. But we'll find that out for you. Enzo Benito's up to P23 after his start from the pit lane and due to his penalty in the earlier round. So we'll look for him to come through. Looks like Aleski Aloma did suffer from a lack of talent and spun it, basically. Sad because he's always fun to watch because he's not shy of putting an overtake on someone, that's for sure. He reminds me of I've forgotten the guy's name. Kobayashi, that's the one.
Well, he's gone from 16th to 22nd. Alexi Loma's now got to battle his way through the field. He's 1.1 behind Marcus Caton at the moment, and he's going to try and close down on him and try and get back up into that 16th place, but down 22nd now, unfortunately for him. The race leads come down slightly as well. It's 2.1 seconds
I'm
between.
going to cut you off
Hudec.
because Kroenke is looking really racy against Luke McLean right now, and he's closer than I've seen for a few laps. He's in range for a toe down the straight as they're going through the tight sections now. So they look to this to evolve, and it looks like Marty Patel is catching them up as well. So this could be the forthcoming battle. See if Kroenke can get into the slipstream and maybe pass him going into turn 1. They're coming through the chicane now. Kroenke looks good. He needs to get a solid exit to give him a run through. Marty Patel behind them has gained like 10 car lengths in 4 corners, so he's found something from somewhere, and he's closing them both now.
Yeah, Luke McLean's just been able to sort out his bad start to that lap, and he's pulled away slightly from Martin Kroenke, but Martin Kroenke was quite close going through the Audi S, but not close enough. It looks like Luke McLean's just starting to battle some oversteer. I think he's actually got the worst of both, to be honest with you. He's got entry understeer, and then he's battling huge slap oversteer on exit, and I think this is what allowing Martin Kroenke to get close, and Martin Patella is closing on the pair of them, but Martin Kroenke might want to do something fairly soon to negotiate Luke McLean and avoid the onslaught that's coming from Marty Patella.
Yeah, I'll be definitely a little bit concerned if I was Luke McLean and Martin Kroenke. I'd be like, who's this guy coming up? Who's that in the mirrors? There was no one there before, and you know what? The 2 guys behind him, Spindale and Cattell, aren't far behind either. So this could be a 5-way battle very, very quickly. I think Scott has returned from the mists. So,
yes, I am back. So I do apologise to everyone, including especially Will. I'm probably going to wring my neck afterwards, but we do appear to have sourced it out. Just this change in priority. So fingers crossed I'm not lagging anymore. I've got the screen full screen now, so hopefully I sound okay. Can you guys verify that?
Yep.
Yeah. Not
Excellent.
too bad. You've missed some great racing. I'll give you that, as Kroenke's looking all over the gearbox of Luke McLean right now.
You have to fill me in of what's been going on. I can see how it works at the moment, but I guess I know we're watching a battle between Kroenke and Luke McLean over P4. As I head through Hunsrück again and up towards through these sweeping dunes, and you can see that Kroenke's giving him a real hurry up to achieve that very fast right-hander. Just really falls away from you. And up towards the Marlboro, very tight right-hander, and then through the very tricky entries of Vodafone and Renault. This is Vodafone, this is Renault right here, and then through the left-hander of Vodafone, through the very corners that when you turn in, almost like a late apex, but you get right to the tip and as you get up there, you see McLean kicking up a little bit of dust. They come down towards the Audi S. Under brakes once again, very tight entry, but it opens out on the second part as they swing round the left-hander. And Kroenke just about staying in there, and Pietel was their mistake, in fact. I think it's a penalty. Sorry.
He's took a little bit too much track and got himself a slowdown penalty, which allowed Marty Patella to catch right up, if not overtake, and which he has done. But Kroenke looks as though he's got more straight line speed. This is going to be fun going into turn 1. Last of the late breakers, and we know Kroenke's so strong on the brakes, and he just drives around the outside and says, "Yep, sorry about that, thanks, bye."
Beautiful move to sweep around the outside there for Martin Kroenke. That slowdown has really, really affected Mike Patella, and Kroenke was swept round the outside of him and used all that camber to his advantage, and has progressed up. So Marty,
it was Kroenke that got the slowdown, Nick. It was Kroenke that got the slowdown.
Sorry. Okay, so Kroenke got the slowdown.
That benefited, then sorted himself out from it. Yeah. So.
Well, he held that position well enough then.
Also looking back behind them, I can see that Emil Spindale and Simon Cattell have also put themselves into the fight as well. This is P7 and P8, so they are starting to wind themselves off the back of this. But this is now given the likes of Luke McLean and Martin Piatella a little bit of breathing space now for Martin Kroenke.
Yeah, it has. But just catching up to the back of this train is Ben Cornett, the man that everyone loves to love. He's catching up to the back of him, and Jason Lovett and Fulvio are not far behind. So this whole midfield is bottlenecking almost. They're all catching each other, which is unusual to see. Normally it spreads out. It sort of spread out at the start. Now it's all coming back together. So, you know, fatigue, tiredness. It's a busy track, as we keep saying. So, you know, we're getting some errors. People are battling. So it's bunching the field up again, which is making for some great racing.
Yeah, and Spidel's the one that's getting closest enough as well to Piatella. He's getting very, very close to him now as he goes into the second section. It's a very high speed section. You'll start to get a little bit of a tow as we go down towards turns 6 and 7, and late on the brakes as he turns in, you've got very, very good on the exit of Spindel there. And it looks like Spindel's the one. But we're seeing a lot of changes actually happening through the field as Gregor Hutu is only 1.9 seconds behind Atsej Kirchhoff now. So the difference of the tyres and how the tyres work and how the drivers are using them as well is really affecting how this race is unfolding currently on lap 21.
Yeah, I just...
After you, Scott.
Oh, sorry, Dimitri. I was just noticing, last time around the laps have been pretty key, because looking at the lap time so far, I see that Gregor was about 0.3 quicker than Kirchhoff that time around. As they go across the line, let's have a look and see how they've come across, because I haven't seen them come up just yet. Kirchhoff's last lap time was a 1 minute 12.3, and Hutu's this time was 1 minute 12.4, so he's lost a tenth in this race, and the gap's back up to 2 seconds. And Gregor himself is 2.6 ahead of Luis in third, but he's still a 1 minute 12.3 as well, so these three very evenly matched. There's only a tenth in it in terms of lap times. That shows you just how quick and consistent these three are. And back and forth with Luke McLean, his best was a 1 minute 12.6, so he's falling away at the rate of some 3 or 4 tenths of a second per lap. But he's got a nice little advantage of about 2.2 seconds over Martin Kroenke in P5.
Sorry to interrupt. Simon Cattell just managed to get P8. From P7 from Emil Spindel with a move down at one of the hairpins and managed to drive around the outside. It was a super pass. If we can get that on replay, that'd be great. It was a fantastic move, to be fair.
So now Simon Cattell is up in 7th place. He's going to try and close down Marty Piatella. Yes, he is. He's closing down Marty Piatella, and then just in front is Martin Kroenke still, and obviously falling back from Luke McLean. Luke McLean is using all the track and a little bit more, still kicking up a lot of dust, battling. It looks like understeer and exit oversteer, but since Martin Kroenke has dropped back a bit, he's dropped back to 2.2 seconds behind. So yeah, it's going to get close between those two again, because it definitely looks like Martin's got the better race speed at the moment. Again, just a little bit on the edge of the track there for Luke McLean. He's really pushing, trying to use all the track limit at the moment.
Yeah, he's not shy of throwing his car around. He's a fantastically talented driver, and definitely very, very quick. Sometimes inconsistent, but he's showing he can hang. The last few races he's been driving really well, so maybe if he just tied it up a little bit, it'd carry a little bit more speed, but it's just not his style. He just likes pin it to win it kind of style, which is great fun for us to watch.
And just to update you guys on the race at the front, Atsej Kirchhoff, Gregor Hutu, that's split by 2 seconds, 4.4 seconds from the race leader to Hugo Luis. They're still in that region of 4.4 seconds. Luke McLean's now fallen down to 10 seconds off Atsej Kirchhoff. So Luke McLean's gone backwards, where these guys at the front are full throttle, and the gap's come down again between Hutu and Atsej Kirchhoff. It was 2 seconds. It's now down to 1.7 seconds. So again, at this point, Gregor Hutu now has got a little bit better race pace. The last lap of a 1:12.155.
I'll tell you who else is lapping pretty quick is Martin Kroenke, because the lap before that he did a 1:12.2, so he was matching the leaders, and he's in P5 chasing after Luke McLean. He's got the gap now down to 1.8 seconds pretty much. He's been closing lap by lap. We look at the last lap times the last time around. For McLean, the last lap for him, if I can get it up on my screen, 1 minute 12.5. Then Kroenke's last time up to behind is back to they matched each other, so the gap's static at the moment at 1.8. But you can see Kroenke's just about keeping the red line driver in his sights as they head now through Vodafone corner again. Another long, just waiting to get on the power right on the exit, full throttle and down the back straight towards the Audi S chicane. And we'll see this time around, has Gregor Hutu been able to close in the gap to Kirchhoff as they head across the line? We'll find out just now. Kirchhoff heads across the line, does a 1 minute 12.288 compared to Hutu's bit time across the line, and he sets 1 minute 12.269. He's fractionally quicker. So it looks like anything that Hutu could do, Kirchhoff has the pace to match it, and he's keeping that gap static at 1.7 seconds. This is good driving from Kirchhoff at his home race. He's putting himself in real contention to take his first win of the season here at Zandvoort.
I'll tell you another man to watch a little bit further down the path is Simon Cattell. He's actually flying. He's closing the gap down on Martin Piatella, hand over fist. He's left Emil Spindel. Once he cleared Emil Spindel, he's just gone, yeah, see you later. and he's got the bit between his teeth, and he's not far off the back of Martin Patilli's gearbox right now. A little bit further down, Timo Uven has been cruising through the field and looks like he's in a good battle with Dion Verges, Christian Lorente. There's a 5-car train back there with Hudec, Naromi, Joni Tomla are all involved. Tomla's just off the back of it, sorry. So it's Hudec, Naromi, Timo Uven and Dion Verges, Christian Lorente, and just ahead of that, just a few seconds up the road is Paul Ilbrink. So look to that to develop. It's crazy. There's passing left, right and centre.
Out in front though, it's 1.8 seconds the gap between Kirchhoff and Hudec, and it's slightly increased again. That's he had a slightly better lap that time round. Hugo Luis, he's done up in the mid-range of the 12s now, and it's 5.9 seconds off. So again, this could be illustrating the strategy difference and also the tyre differences, but also Hugo Luis might not quite have the race pace of Atsane Gregor.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm just back to that battle that I was talking about just a minute ago.
Andre Butcher's just had a bit of a moment going. He's gone off at the exit of turn 1. He's fallen. Is he back behind? No, he's still in front of Terry Cotavara. He had a moment and he's got himself sorted out. We're back in 12th position, but he's fallen way back of Fulvio Barazzini.
Yeah, it's unlucky for him. Just looked like he just dropped his car off the road. When you interrupted me, there was the three cars were 3 wide down the start-finish straight going into turn 1, which was quite entertaining. That was Timo Uven and Dion Verges and Hudec Naromi, but that sorted itself out through the following corners, and they all ended up holding position.
Across the line again once again, and Kirchhoff's last lap time around was a 1:12.0 compared to Hudec's 1:12.1. It's actually Hugo Luis the fastest man out of the 3 of them, 1:11.9. So the last time around, Kirchhoff did do before that a 1:11.8. So what a huge slide for Luis. He heads through the hairpin there at Hugenholtz. Just managed to get it gathered together. He now winds through the section of Hunsrück and then up through towards that very fast right hand of Schivlak here. Carrying some 160 miles an hour and a bit of a twitch as he went through there as well. And Hugo Luis looking pretty. Obviously, he knows what's at stake is that he has to get himself a good result, because if he doesn't, he can pretty much see his championship chances start to slip away. Because of course, Hudec will score more points if it ended like this, and he really has to start putting the hammer down. He's 5.8 seconds away from the lead, and he's about 3 seconds away, if not even 4 seconds away, pretty much.
And just behind, sorry to interrupt you there, the battle between Luke McLean and Martin Kroenke is back to where we were a few laps ago after that spread out. Kroenke has been absolutely flying. He's been in some form of superhero mode to get back on the back of Luke. So again, this is going to be another, as we said before, the red line cars seem to come out the corners better, and the My3RD cars seem to go into the corner better. So we'll see if Kroenke can get past.
Well,
Kroenke did a 12.0 on the previous lap, and he's just done a 12.2 now, so he just illustrates how fast he's going, because he's lapping at the same rate as the guys at the front. The race leads down to 1.6 seconds, so the gap between Atsay Kirchhoff and Gregor Hudec has come down a little bit. 5.7, still stabilised for Hugo Luis in third.
Now, we're still watching Martin Kroenke as they head down through Schivlak, and that gap is getting visibly close. Of course, the gap's now just half a second now, so you see Kroenke's just got the bit between his teeth. He's one of the fastest guys out there on track right now, and McLean's going to get that information back from his teeth, and he'll be able to see it plain as daylight in his mirrors. Kroenke now is probably going to think about lining up McLean for a pass. He's got him in the slipstream down towards the Audi S, but he's not close enough to make a move. But just tucks in where he is. They're going to have a super little exit onto the pit straight, and that will possibly give him a chance to take P4 from the Australian. They head to the Ari Lindike corner.
That red line car's got so much corner exit, it's crazy. He just drives away from him in mid-corner. I don't know what they've done to their setup, but that's a lovely corner exit. Martin Kroenke has to work so hard down the straight to try and get back close to him again.
Yeah, he's doing all the hard work again under braking. He closed, and he's right up going through 2 and 3 now, and Martin Kroenke just cannot get these exits. Oh, look, Luke McLean still gets a little bit of oversteer, but it's so strong on exit that Martin Kroenke can't do anything about it unless it's in the braking zone. So as soon as he gets close to him, Martin Kroenke should be stronger under brakes, but Luke McLean doing a great job to stay in front, but battle is resumed between these two.
Just looking back at the front, I can see that Kirkov actually that time last time around was the slowest of the 3 front runners, because Kirkov did a 1 minute 12.0. Both Hutu and Luis did 1 minute 11, so 1 minute 11.8 for Hutu and a 1 minute 11.9 for Luis. So the gap's down between the 2 leaders to 1.4 seconds, and it's now 5.5 seconds between leader Kirkov and third place Hugo Louis. And still looking back in P4, Martin Kroenke is still chasing after Luke McLean for that 4th position. And this time around, that he's still roughly about 3/10 there. But let's see exactly how close he is as they come onto the pit straight. He'll get another toe, but he won't be close enough to make a move down towards Tarzan. And no, he won't. So McLean will cover the inside line perfectly, but you can see how much Kroenke closes under brakes. Really is looking feisty. A little bit of a twitch of oversteer as well. But he had that corrected easy. So I think Kroenke probably keeps going the rate he's going right now. He's got a really great chance of taking P4 course before the pit stops.
Yeah, and they're approaching. We reckon in about 10 laps time we should see the leaders pit. Maybe earlier, it depends on whether they loaded the tanks. I would presume everyone started on a full tank, but you never know with these guys. Some guys are good at saving fuel and might start slightly lighter. Who knows? That should develop in the next 10 laps or so. We reckon lap 40 for the first pit stop. And out of the leaders, I would expect Atsi to pit first, but I could be wrong.
I'll tell you something very quickly, that Hugo Luis has found some fantastic pace. Guys in front, 1 minute 11.9 for both Atsi and Kirkov, a 1:11.6 for Hugo Luis, so he's got the bit between his teeth, trying to chase after. This time around he come across the line, and he's done a 1 minute 11.5, so he's getting even quicker, so he's really starting to come back to these 2 in front of him. The gap down to pretty much 5 seconds, so maybe this isn't all over for Hugo Louis. He's still got a bit of a chance to give himself a decent result. And the gap between himself and Gregor Hutu is only about 3.6 seconds, so this is not all over for him. This could still happen before the pit stops.
As Rob was alluding to before about Luke McLean, he's done exactly the same again. Getting out of that turn 12 corner, he's so strong that Martin Kroenke can't get anywhere near him, but up through 3 and into the fast sweeping section, a beautiful bit of racetrack this, coming down towards turns 6 and 7 now. And Luke McLean is just basically holding on for dear life from Martin Kroenke. The amount of speed he has. Martin Kroenke is still lapping in the low 12s. He's nearly cracked the 11s, but I think he's actually just been a little bit thrown off by Luke McLean at the moment. I'm sure if Martin Kroenke can get by Luke McLean, then we should see some pretty impressive lap times for Martin Kroenke. Huge slap of oversteer there for Martin Kroenke, though. He's now dropped back a little bit, but huge moment. Get on the power nice and early. Too early, though, and the rear steps out on him. Again, nearly there as well as he come out of the Audi S.
That might be a telltale sign that he's used his tyres a bit too much, because of course these guys have got about 30 odd laps on these tyres. We know how long they can last, but if he's been pushing to try and chase after Luke McLean, and also the fact, of course, he's been caught up in his dirty air for the past couple of laps, may have just overcooked them a little too much as McLean just clouts the curb on the inside of Tarzan. Oh, and he ran a little wide, kicks a bit of dust as well on the exit, so maybe the pressure's getting to him a little bit, because he knows every corner he turns, Kroenke is right there in his mirrors. He's closed up again once more. So I think possibly that Kroenke's starting to feel a little bit of the issues with tyres, possibly being stuck behind Kroenke and pushing after him. But McLean, of course, I think if he's not careful, he'll start to let the pressure get to him a little bit more. He doesn't want that to happen.
He's got himself a little gap now, so it's probably proving a little bit easier, but not much. That was a great battle. I think Kroenke might have just saw the opportunity to just, because he was really close, just to try and hold that, and was just trying, and just hasn't got the exit of the red line car in front. But as we keep saying, he's awesome on the brakes.
Got a little battle emerging as well between Ben Cornett, Jason Lovett and Fulvio Barrezzoni. Barrezzoni is the one at the back of this group. He's in P11, P10 for Lovett and 9 for Cornett, and they're very close together, and it looks like Barrezzoni may have had a slowdown there because he's just dropped way off the back of Lovett there. Yeah, I think he's had a slowdown, so it's just a battle between Cornett and Lovett now, as Barrezzoni's got all that work to do again.
We could have a real fight on our hands for P1, because looking at lap times, so the gap's down to 1.2 seconds now between Kirkov and Hutu, and Luis is still coming back at them. A 1:11.5 for Luis compared to a 1 minute 11.7 for Hutu and a 1 minute 11.6 for Kirkov. So Luis is starting to find a little more pace. He's the fastest man out on track right now, and he knows. And as we said, he knows what's at stake. So he's just channeling his, not desperation, but just channeling everything that he's got into driving this car back towards the 2 guys in front. He's got himself a nice back 10-second advantage over McLean. He's now got Martin Kroenke once again all over the back of him. as they head down towards the Audi S for the 33rd time out of 71. And just how close does Kroenke dare to get through this corner? Look, they sweep through the tighter right-hander, the small opening left-hander, down towards the final 2 corners, put them back onto the pit straight, and Kroenke gives himself a great exit here, hugs the inside line, but again he's just not close enough to take full advantage of the slipstream. So he just cannot get himself close. He needs to really be right on the rear wing, as we've seen time and time again, take advantage. He closes under braking, but that's not going to be good enough because we get to this very tight and twisty section, and another slap of oversteer again from Kroenke. So you can see, getting caught up on that dirty 8 is really hindering him because he's feeling desperation almost. He has to get past to try and at least make an indent on the guys in front. He's losing time, a couple of tenths a lap, hand over fist, stuck behind the red line driver, and he knows that he has the pace to match the leaders. We've seen it, he's lapping at the same kind of pace that they're doing right now. So Kroenke has to get this done sooner or later.
Obviously, these guys would have done race runs and stuff in practice as well, so they would get used to the lightning loads, but they're not. They haven't done it in a race scenario. They're not trying to chase someone down, so maybe the car's just not quite doing what they did in practice, you know, with a lighter fuel load, and it's just, you know, it's a little bit harder to drive on the limit from their practice sessions. You never know, so it just might not be quite there for them as we go on board with Gregor Hudec, who is absolutely flying. If you want to learn how to drive a sim car, this is the man to watch.
Yeah, he's just on a 1:11.5 there, and we're saying about Gregor Hudec and Atsej Kirchhoff. Atsej Kirchhoff, race leader. Scott and I had the pleasure of actually commentating on him a few races ago over at FSR, and we've got to say that he's done a superb job at the moment out in this race leader. Second advantage that he has in front of Hugo Louis and Gregor Hudec, 1 second and then 4.3 back. Hugo Louis still got some very good race pace, and he has closed that gap. It was out at nearly 5.7 at one stage, now at 4.3. And it's great to see Atsej Kirchhoff doing what he's doing here, and obviously we had the pleasure of seeing him before a few races ago, and I think, Scott, from our point of view, if we had Atsej, Gregor, Hugo and then Woodwiss, I think we'd be on for an absolute treat.
Oh, chuck in Morgan Morand as well. You'd have a fantastic 5-car scrap, I'm pretty sure, because we know Morgan Morand as well. If any of you guys don't know Morgan Morand, he did recently leave FSR to take a sabbatical, but he was the only man that could challenge Woodwiss. If anyone's not sure who Woodwiss is, he is a Dutchman like Atsej Kirchhoff, but he races over in FSR, and he's a 3-time defending world champion there, on course for a 4th, and he's 19 years old, and he is incredibly quick. I think Nick will agree, we've hardly ever seen him make a mistake. So if he was ever to make the prospect of coming here in the iRacing WCS against the likes of Kirchhoff, Hudec and Luis, we'll be in for some treat, especially, like I say, Chuck Morgan Morand in there, who on his day, if he's good enough and doesn't let his emotions and his over-enthusiastic style get the better of him, he has got the pace to match, and if not, some cases better. So if we had those 5 out on track right here, right now, in iRacing, in these cars, the prospect is mouth-watering.
Most certainly is, and it's mouth-watering at the moment for Gregor Hudec because he's underneath the second from Atsej Kirchhoff now. The last lap was a 1:11.5 again, and it looks like at this stage, on lap 36, the driving from Gregor Hudec is working better than what Atsej Kirchhoff is, and the car's set up, and the car just coming to Gregor Hudec. He's been very calm and collected behind, just biding his time, understanding his car, understanding these tyres in full race condition. Remember also, we're onto a new tyre model for this race, and they're just fully understanding these cars and how they're working, and it seems to be coming towards Gregor Hudec, especially since the gap actually to Hugo Louis is up to 5.2, so he's lost a little bit of time there. But again, 1:11.4 there for Gregor Hudec. He's circling half a tenth out of Atsej Kirchhoff, and he's getting closer.
He is an absolute machine when he wants to be. Something just flicks in his head and he goes into... we've seen this time and time again in this series, when he's chasing someone down, or even indeed when he gets out in front, he just locks it down and goes into a machine-like mode and just bangs in the really fast lap times, which he's doing now. Unbelievable.
Hugo Louis made a slight mistake by the looks on the last lap. He was at a 12.5, had a bit of a moment, but then he's just backed that up with an 11.3, so I think he had a slight moment, but he's got himself sorted out. But the gap now to race leader Atsej Kirchhoff has stabilised once again at 5 seconds.
Just quickly, someone's put in the chat, one of the spectators, just to correct, Atsej Kirchhoff's not 19 years old. We were talking about the other Dutchman, and we were talking about Woodwiss from FSR. I believe Atsej's about 22 or 23, so sorry if that caused any confusion at all. But yeah, talk about Gregor Hudec, of course. He's one of these drivers where, as Rob rightly said, just flicks a switch and just he can't make an error. He just consistently pounding in fast laps to try and close on the guys in front. In fact, looking at last time around, Kirchhoff just pumped in a 1:11.3 compared to Hutu's time, 1:11.6. So Kirchhoff's turned the wick up as well. He's feeling the pressure, of course, and we're getting near towards the pit window of around lap 40, lap 41. So we're expecting these guys in, I would have thought, in the next, say, 2 to 3 laps if they're going to do a one-stopper. Louise managed to make up some more time with 1:11.2. So Hugo Louise responding from that mistake and has absolutely got the hammer down at the moment. He's really starting to chase after, and these four gap themselves by about 11 seconds from Luke McLean back in 5th, who has still got Martin Kroenke on his rear wing, but still Kroenke cannot find a way through. He doesn't seem to be able to get himself close enough to get a run onto the pit straight, and it's really confusing. It's really frustrating because you see it in these very winding corners, he just cannot seem to get an advantage at all.
Yeah, he tries really hard. It just seems his car washes out a little bit on corner exit each time. Just when he comes into the final few corners, it just seems to drift out wide. And whereas McLean's car just, as soon as he plants his right foot, his car just takes off straight and see you later.
And I think it was Gregor's moment, the last lap to have a bit of a moment anyway, because the race leads out to 1.2 seconds as Hugo Louis was the fastest of the 3 drivers, and bringing that gap down. But Gregor Hutu 1.2 seconds, and Atsej Kirchhoff is just starting to control and understand his car again now, and hold on to this race lead. But it's so close between the pair of them. And as we approach the pit stop window that we think we were going to come in between sort of 40 and 45, then you can't force any mistakes from these guys on pit entry or pit exit that could compromise that 1.2 second lead that Atsej Kirchhoff currently has, and Gregor Hutu trying to make up.
Tails also might be a good battle to watch. Sorry about that, Rob.
Come on, Scott, sorry, I was...
That's fine. Another battle could be to watch is that you've got Simon Cattell. We were talking about him earlier on. He's actually keeping Marty Piatella in his sights at the moment for P6. The gap's about 7/10 of a second, so the gap is roughly similar to that between McLean and Kroenke, so Kroenke's a little bit closer this time. But Cattell could have get himself into the top 6. It's actually a really good run for Cattell. I remember seeing him race before over in another league, GPWC, and he had some flashes of brilliance there, but of course he's now come to iRacing for a while, and I think he's starting to find his element because he's now right on the back of Piatella. Well, not exactly on the back of Piatella, but he's getting close, and he might just be able to make an advantage here, as we've got Martin Kroenke in from P6, and he's now had enough following Luke McLean. It looks like he's our first of our front runners to make a stop, and that's pretty much in the window. That's pretty much the end of lap 39, so he's obviously taken a lot more of his tyres than he would have wanted, and hits his box now.
Maybe he's going to try the undercut,
quite possibly,
and try and just have a really fast outlap. We know he's quick around this track, so he'd be going for the undercut here, I think.
Someone else in behind as well, and it's Andre Bircher is in 2. That was from P13. And someone else is also heading it on pit road as well.
Looks like Martin Kroenke's actually had a penalty there as well. Yes, he has. And it looks like Butcher's come out in front. So Martin Kroenke had a long stop there. And he's rejoined, but he's a lot further back down than where he came in. He's got a lot of work to do now.
Yeah, speeding penalty, unsafe pit entry. So he didn't quite get it down.
He's got off the turn 2 as well.
What's he doing?
He got very well. I think that's probably cold tyres catching him out. He wanted to push on after his pit lane infringement. And going through turn 3, he just looped the car around. And massively unfortunate there for Martin Kroenke. As we've seen all race long that he's had some great speed, but it's just gone away from him completely.
Yes, we head to the replay, and going around turn 1, comes out, just gets it on the grass. I can't really understand what he's trying to do here. It's not off-road simulator, but just gets it all loose, tries to correct it, gets on the grass again, spins it. I put that down to a lack of talent, which is unbelievable for me to say that because it's Martin Kroenke, but I guess the best can make mistakes, and that was a pretty big one.
Race leader Atsej Kirchhoff and second place man Gregor Hutu just negotiating some lap traffic at the moment. Marcus Castle, they've just got rounds, and Atsej is starting on lap 42, and they are carrying on. So is Gregor Hutu, and let's see, Hugo Louis, he's also carried on as well on lap 42. Not deciding to make a pit stop yet, And the gap between Louis and Kirchhoff is 4.6 seconds. And in the middle of that sandwich is Gregor Hutu, 1.1 seconds behind Atse Kirchhoff.
And Luke McLean has carried on. He's carried on in P4. Marty Piatella's got him in a lap car between them.
And Martin Cronke's just been lapped by Atse due to that mistake. Considering he was just running in 6 before the pit stop, he's now been lapped by the leader.
That's heartbreaking for him because he was doing so well up to that point, and he had that slight moment where he had to drop back, but he caught back up, and that's the difference they can make during a pit stop and the penalty that you will serve. And the guys at the front, Atse Kirchhoff, Gregor Hutu, and Hugo Louis, do not want to be doing that around, especially this very, very short circuit. Only 1 minute 11 lap currently with this fuel load, so they have to be very, very careful not to break any sort of pit lane limits.
Yeah, this is a good time just to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Atse Kirchhoff crosses the line, iRacing.com. Then WCS Tipping at redline.co.uk, and our friends at ETV, professional broadcasting.
The gap between Kirchhoff and Hutu this time around is now 1.4 seconds they had to negotiate Martin Kroenke as they head now out of Hugenholtz.
Hugo Luis has just entered pit lane now. Yeah, he's into pit lane, so he's been the first one. So it looks like the pace just generally has not been quite there for Hugo. He's been trying, and away Hugo goes now. And he comes back out of pit lane. It looks like he's had no sort of issues like
he's
Martin
behind
Kroenke has done.
Fulvio Barazoni, so he's come out in 9th behind Barazoni.
9th place, and he has...
7th.
Yeah, sorry, 7th place, and he has a little bit of clear track that he can try and utilise on these new tyres before he catches up to those guys, and those guys have still got to make their stops yet anyway.
I think visually the gap between Kirchhoff and Hutu's come down just a little bit more this time around because they've got some clear air, but I wonder to see if these guys will hold right and head into the pits. Kirchhoff carries on, and so does Hutu. So these two are still feeling pretty comfortable on their fuel loads and their tyres right now. Gap's down by 0.3 of a second, so Hutu last time around was a 111.0 compared to 111.3 as Martin Kroenke has got past Marcus Catton. That's from P16. So he's now trying to get himself back onto the lead lap, of course. Now he's just been lapped by Kirchhoff and Hutu, so he's doing what he can to make up the difference. As Hugo Louis will pick him up in just a moment, see exactly what his outlap is. Of course, we get an indication. A few more cars starting to come in now to make their first stops. One and only stops, in fact. And the outlap for Louis was a 135.4. So we're getting a true judgment of his pace now on his first flying lap on this brand new set of tyres. Of course, it's fat. That car is now fat with fuel again. So, of course, it's going to might hamper a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see how that works out.
Yeah, so currently it's just the top 4 that haven't stopped for fuel and tyres yet. And we'll see if they're coming round. They're not far off completing their lap. So we'll see if Atse takes a dive into pit lane.
No.
And he doesn't.
That was just to get around a back marker, and he actually got slightly held up there, and that's really showed because Hutu's now got the gap down to less than a second. He was getting held up to the final couple of corners, and some of the back marker couldn't find a way through. He's much more obliging to Hutu this time around, but I think that may have just compromised Kirchhoff, and that could be quite telling if these guys have to come in the next couple of laps, whether or not if Hutu's that close. And I'm pretty sure he's got the eyes on.
It was Petteri Kutavara that was slowing him down through turn 12, and it allowed all that time for Gregor Hutu to close up. You're down to 0.7 of a second, and Hutu can really capitalise. Now, this traffic has not been particularly kind at the moment to Atse Kirchhoff, and Gregor Hutu is capitalising as much as he possibly can. And Hugo Louis is quite a way back at the moment, but he's got a nice buffer to Ben Cornet, and he should be able to start to use those tyres.
Do you reckon they're going to pit on the same lap? That's the question. It could be a race in pit lane. It could be an overtake in pit lane. Who knows?
What a spectacle that could be. What a spectacle that could be. And again, they're coming up now to, of course, Andre Butcher. And I wonder, is Kirchhoff going to get held up here? Is he going to take advantage of getting the tow? Or would he even sweep into pit lane this time around?
It's pit lane.
Yes, he does. And Hutu's in too.
They're both coming together.
So race in the pit lane between the two race leaders, Kirchhoff and Hutu. Question is, where is Hugo Luis? Hugo is only at Vodafone. Excuse me, a few more corners to go. And both guys are going to hit their boxes in just a moment. And let's see how this plays out in the pit lane.
Oh, look at them right together as well. And that's Kirchhoff Gregor Hudec racing basically in pit lane at the moment. And we have to wait and see where Hugo Luis appears. And away Atse goes.
That's his first.
Yeah, he's got away, and it looks like he's actually put a little bit of extra time between himself and Gregor Hudec.
And Hugo Luis is still on the pit straight, so it looks like even though he's tried to gain the undercut, it hasn't really worked all that well. So looking at the gap between them, we'll see exactly how that's going to play out then. So the two of these have already just exited Hugo Hudec, but they're right in the middle of traffic at the moment. Hudec has to get around a back marker. And
we're not actually sure if Atse took tyres. The word from pit lane. We'll get that checked for you and verified. But the word on the street is maybe not. But we need to check it.
Apparently, we've been told, just been in my ear, apparently that he has taken tyres, just like Hudec. So apparently, he has taken a fresh set of tyres and also refueled once more. Now, the first lap time on these new tyres, a benchmark for these two, compared to Luis's best time, was a 1 minute 12.8. Of course, bear in mind that's with a full tank of fuel once again and fresh tyres getting up to temperature. So if we can get a judgment of just how quick these guys are in the same situation, be able to judge just who has got the most natural pace at the moment this afternoon at Zandvoort. At the moment, it's Kirchhoff, and he really is taken to these new tyres very, very quickly because he's already started to get the gap out a little bit more. Meanwhile, we are still waiting for Luke McLean, who currently has the race lead, for him to make his pit stop. Because, of course, the man he was battling, Martin Crocky, pitted way back before he made his mistake on the exit on those cold tyres. So McLean just taking advantage of a little bit of breathing space now. He's got, at the moment, as he went across the line, an 11-second advantage, but of course that's nowhere near enough what he needs to stay in front, and he won't stay in front. But of course Kirchhoff has now got a 1.3 second advantage over Hudec as they work lap 47.
Who did you tip to win this race? Because you can do live tipping at WSS Tipping at redline.co.uk.
Atse Kirchhoff at the moment, he's come out of pit lane and looking the stronger driver as well. Gregor Hudec is he's trying to push, but looks like Atse is the one that is just darted out of pit lane. Got a lot of confidence straight away after coming out of pit lane and edged out that buffer that was lost to it behind Petteri Kotavara a few laps ago prior to his pit stop. And I think we've just lost Kotavara though also now, but yeah, it's advantage Atse Kirchhoff currently after the round of pit stops.
So onto that 48
so.
then. Onto that 48 of 77, and as it's now shaking out, we may possibly have time for a sponsor video for you guys. So absolutely. So I think we're going to possibly get a replay Kotavara as well. What we'll do is we'll see if we can cut to a quick sponsor video for you guys. We're working on that 40. Atse Kirchhoff leading his home Grand Prix from Gregor Hudec and Hugo Luis. In fact, it's Luke McLean currently at the top of the leading. The exit pit, but net leader is Atse Kirchhoff in his home Grand Prix from Gregor Hudec in second and Hugo Luis in third. Quick sponsor video. We'll be back in just 2 seconds.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And welcome back to live and exclusive coverage here on GlacierTV of round 13 of the 2013 Sorry, excuse, apologies for that. Just live coverage of the 2013 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. Currently Luke McLean leading the race by 13.7 seconds, but he is yet to make his pit stop. That's a Kirchhoff second, net race leader, and he holds effectively a 2-second advantage on Gregor Hutu, with Hugo Louise a further 7.5 seconds back. Quick shout out to our sponsors once again. If you want to tip who can win this race, then just head over to teamredline.co.uk, and those guys, you'll be able to head over to there. Say thanks to Team Redline for their World Championship tipping service. Also thank you of course to iRacing.com for providing the fantastic simulation service which you have. Head to iRacing.com to get yourself started, and of course to ETV Live, who always put on a fantastic broadcast, and they're doing another broadcast of this quality once again. Myself, Scott Woodwiss, alongside Nick Rowland and Rob Cuss in the commentary box. And guys, pretty good race so far. It's starting to pan out spread out just a little bit more. We're just past the hour mark in this race, and Luke McLean, just how far can he go on these tyres? He's currently working lap 50, so he's gone terribly far in his 51 in fact, so he's gone incredibly far. When do you think he's likely to be pitting?
That is a really good question. I'm not quite sure, but it could be a short splash and dash, but because there's only 20 laps left of the race.
Yeah, tremendous effort from him, and he's really pushed on the front. Last lap was a 1:12.8. 13-second advantage that he has over Atse Kirchhoff, 15.2 back to Gregor Hutu. Yeah, Luke McLean, he's doing a very, very solid job, and he's the one that's been the most conservative on tyres and fuel, and made it work from up to lap 51 currently. He's come up in a little bit of lap traffic though currently, so just needs to negotiate that, and hopefully doesn't have the same problem as what Petteri Kurtavara did. Speaking of Petteri, he had a huge moment just before he went to our advert there. He had a huge moment out of 12, got up on the curbs, and the rear wheel spun up, and it's spearing into the barrier on the right-hand side of the circuit, and that's unfortunately what ended Petteri Kurtavara's race.
So, looking at the lap times this time around, Luke McLean's still going as we now work lap 52. When he's run across the grass! Huge mistake, he's in the barriers! Luke McLean with a huge mistake. He's overworked his tyres a little, and that will certainly cause damage.
Oh, look at that rear wing as well. That's a horrible looking rear wing. He did exactly the same as what Martin Kroenke did. Martin Kroenke did exactly the same thing. It spun it in turn 3, and that rear wing is looking pretty second hand. Oh yeah, he's got no rear grip at all. No rear grip as he goes through turn 6, coming down towards 7.
It looks like he had contact with the car that just went past him as well, which it looks like the bank wheels, nothing serious, hopefully.
If we look at the replay, and it's incredible to see, and this must be due to tyres, because he's been out there for such a long time. We see it, he's heading as he heads up towards the Hugenholtz hairpin, and he just runs wide in the braking zone, and of course over that grass you cannot get that car stopped, and just backs it into the tyres, bends the rear wing beyond repair, and that's of course, I think that's possibly cost him any chance of a good result. He's going to have to pit, pretty sure, and he doesn't pit, he carries on with that rear wing damage. I'm really surprised, because I would have thought with that level of damage it would have possibly been affecting that much, but he's holding on ahead of the back markers, and I'm pretty sure that that is really going to compromise his chances for a result today.
Well, unless he's going to stick out and just, that's going to slow him down. Atsy's only 3 corners back now, and obviously the guys, the cars around him are actually a lap down, so he's still the race leader at the end of the day, even though he's got damage.
That's a horrible looking rear wing, and he's sliding all over the place. These tyres, these new tyres can do a lot, but they can't do as much without that rear wing being intact, and the right side of that wing has dropped away, and he's battling and combating a lot of oversteer at the moment. Luke McLean is having an absolute nightmare now, and Atse Kirchhoff is closing on him, along bringing Gregor Hutu with him. But Luke McLean, that's so unfortunate, because he's doing such a solid job on lap 53. But that rear wing has completely, well, that's spin and the damage to the rear wing has completely screwed his race. And now he's having to relearn the car. And oh, look at that slap of oversteer. And right in the middle of turn 13 as he hits the pit lane now. And finally decides to pit. He did a 118 last time round, and he's dived into pit lane now to sort that all out, to take new tyres, fuel, and hopefully sort out that rear wing if you can. But that's not looking good, and that damage has been pretty permanent by looks.
He has a big gap he has quite a big gap over people barring the top 4. He's got a fair amount of time to try and take as much repair as he can, if it can be repaired, and go again. So he's still on course for some good points in the top 10. And it looks like his pit crew have managed to get the old sledgehammer out and sort a bit of his wing out.
I think what's intriguing, what we should point out, is that, of course, now Hugo Luis back in 3rd position hasn't really made any inroads on the guys in front of him. In fact, he's actually lost time from his pit stop. He got the undercut, and then just didn't seem to make the most of it. He dropped by about 4 seconds from where he was before. It got bigger than that, but it's back 9 seconds now. So, not quite sure what's going on with Hugo Luis on this newer set of tyres. Whether or not he's just nursing them for the opening stint to make sure he's got more life in them, so that he can start to come back to both Kirchhoff and Hütter in front. As we now look to the battle for Marty Piatella. He's now trying to work behind Luke McLean. Of course, he's come back out, and he's now having to battle with that rear wing damage. And Piatella will sense, if you see that damage, he'll know that McLean is wounded, and it's Hunter versus Hunted. Unfortunately, McLean is once again being is the prey, whilst Marty Piatella charges after him, and he should get a great run onto the pit straight this time, especially the fact that Luke McLean's rear wing's damaged, whilst Piatella's is absolutely spotless, and he heads onto the front straight now. And Piatella with a super little exit down the pit straight. McLean will get defensive, but it's not going to work, I don't think, to the outside down towards Tarzan. Under brakes, and Piatella tries to go around the outside of McLean's, being pretty stubborn. But Piatella, even despite the fact McLean's on pressure tyres, is easy pickers. And look at that, Simon Cattell is almost right there to take advantage of that one. So it looks like McLean's going to take at least 2 places in the space of a few corners.
It looks like Luke's still suffering from a bit of damage from his earlier excursion, so he's a little bit down on top speed by the looks of it. Although his car doesn't look as badly damaged as it did, I think he's done a good job.
Wow! He just thrown that into the wall out of 7. That was so unlucky. I thought he caught it. Then this huge slap of oversteers just as Catella was getting up to his rear wing, that damaged rear wing, and it spin him, fired him off into the fence. And out of the race goes Luke McLean. That's a huge disappointment for him. Very, very unlucky there for Luke McLean.
And we'll take a look at the replay of exactly how that all played out. And you can see that Cattell's putting him under a lot of pressure as they came through the Hunsrück section up towards Shavlak here. And just as he goes through there, the car you saw the twitch just on the exit. And you see just fired him straight into the inside wall. And that, unfortunately, is game over for Luke McLean after such a great valiant effort. And just that earlier mistake is what's cost him, and that is what's forced him to out of the race here. As Atsu Kirchhoff continues to lead with a 3.3 second advantage over Gregor Hütter right now, and you can't help but feel sorry for Luke. He put in such a great effort, but unfortunately, he just couldn't make it stick in the end, and it was that rear wing damage that caused it. So hard luck. Of course, he's still got 3 more rounds. He'll be able to get him next time.
Massively disappointing for him. Obviously, he had that moment in 3, damaged his rear wing, and he's not been able to recover. And obviously, coming out on those cooler tyres as well, they wouldn't be up to the temperature yet. And negotiating that turn 6-7 at high speed with damaged rear wing, it was inevitable something could happen, and he just ran out of talent in the end to try and control what was already a pretty heavily damaged car, and it will have to go on to the next round to try and recover his points back for the rest of the season. Nevertheless, it's Simon Cattell. He's in P5 trying to close down Marty Piatella at the moment, and he's getting closer to him, but not close enough yet.
I'd say a very impressive drive so far for Simon Cattell to get into P5. He really has put on a great performance, and he's chasing after Marty Piatella. And he's not too far away. He's got a back mark in front of him right now, but the gap as he went across the line was about 2.3 seconds. So let's see just how much pace he's got. And then compared to Marty Piatella's last lap time, which was a 1 minute 12.8, now Cattell possibly had to back off because of McLean's accident. That's probably the reason why his last lap time was only a 1:14.4. He's back up to full speed right now, and the back marker duly moves out of the way, off the racing line to allow Cattell through. And Cattell's last lap was a 1:12.6 compared to Piatella's. They've actually matched each other, but it was Cattell's who was fractionally faster by about 0.03 of a second. So Cattell can match Piatella. It's all a case of in these last about 14 laps or so, whether or not Cattell's got enough pace left in that car and in those tyres to be able to make it P4 rather than P5.
Gregor Hudec, Atse Kirchhoff split by 3 seconds. Atse's making this work for him after the pit stops. And it's 11.4 back to Hugo Luis, so that early stop hasn't really worked for him. And his pace hasn't been quite there. It was 11.9 for Gregor Hudec. And back for Hugo Luis, he also did an 11.9, so he's still holding relative pace to the race leaders, but the pit stop is just really thrown him out of sync with Gregor Hudec and Atse Kirchhoff. Atse Kirchhoff did a 12.1, so he was actually the slowest of the 3 drivers. And Gregor Hudec may try to capitalise. We saw this previously towards the end of the stint, is where Gregor Hudec really started to make a move. So may be able to come back towards him towards the end of the race. We're on lap 59 for Atse Kirchhoff and Gregor Hudec. And they're not going to have much time left. So if Gregor Hudec wants to make an impression, he's got to do it sooner rather than later. And he's not going to do it like that because he's just lost another 10 to Atse Kirchhoff.
And lost a further 3 tenths to Hugo Luis behind him, because the gap is now, last that time around was 111.7. Kirchhoff was 11.9, so Hudec then got caught up trying to get past a couple of back markers. And again, it's like you said there, Nick, effectively Luis and Hudec come much stronger in the stint, because it looks like they seem to look after their tyres and use them in a more effective, more considerate way earlier on in the stint, which means that by the time they get to the end of the stint that they're running on them, they're in a much better condition than Kirchhoff, who's more under pressure and, of course, more inclined to kind of push on and increase the gap, because he knows effectively he has a chance to take his first race victory, of course, and of all places, at his home race here at Zandvoort. So this could really be a fantastic afternoon for the Dutchman in front of his home fans. And of course, I'm sure there's plenty Dutch fans and Atse Kirchhoff fans watching the live stream. And hello to all of you guys. Your man's doing a fantastic job at the moment. 3.1 second advantage over Hudec with Hugo Luis 11 seconds behind the race leader, and then back to behind the Marty Piatella versus Simon Cattell. The gap's 2.4 seconds. So Piatella P4 and Simon Cattell P5, and pretty competitive top 5. Rest of the top 10 as we look at it. We've got Ben Cornett in P6. He's holding an advantage of about 1.9 seconds from Fulvio Barazzini. And Jason Lovett in P8, Emil Spindel in P9, and Martin Kroenke recovering after that earlier mistake, exiting the pits. A similar mistake to Luke McLean's, but of course Luke's had further, more disastrous consequences further around a couple of laps' time. But Kroenke getting himself back into a top 10 position now, and he's some 10 seconds away from Spindel in P9.
Yeah, Marty Piatella and Simon Cattell split by best part of 2.8 seconds, and he's trying to close that gap. Simon Cattell is having a good drive here at the moment. Ben Cornett, quiet man, but he's in 6th place, and he's having a bit of a dream drive as well, with Fulvio Barazzini in 7th position. Jason Lovett is in 8th, with Emil Spindel in 9th, and Martin Kroenke recovering currently in 10th place after his moment, and also a slow pit stop for speeding in pit lane.
Let's take a look as we head down. We're now working lap 61. Lap times last time around for the leads then. So Kirchhoff was a 1 minute 11.627. Hudec's 1:11.791, and Hugo Luis a 1 minute 11.736. So Hudec and Luis match each other for times, but Luis was just fractionally faster. But Kirchhoff seems to have the advantage. And looking ahead, and just looking, if I personally look on his chase cam myself, how is he looking for traffic? Pretty clear in front of him at the moment, so he's got plenty of clean air to set those fast lap times, and he's heading now into the final 10 laps of the race. And I don't wish to put a commentator's curse on anyone, but provided he just keeps it on the road and maintains this pace, I'd say, boys, that Kirchhoff's almost got this one in the bag, I'd say.
He's controlled this race very, very well, and after that pit stop, he pulled the advantage over Gregor Hudec, and he's made it work for him at 3.1 seconds. He had a lot more confidence, believed in his ability, believed in the car, and stretched that advantage out to 3.1 seconds over Gregor Hudec and 11.1 over Hugo Luis. So, yeah, an excellent drive here from Atse Kirchhoff currently. And it's nice to see with Martin Piatella in 4th place, but still being hunted down by Simon Cattell, who is also having a very, very strong drive here around Zandvoort.
Yeah, Atse's been awesome. But so is Gregor and Hugo, and they're all on a very similar pace, but Atse's just driven from the front. It's been it's been great since he's got off the line. He had a great pit stop, got out in front of his teammate. It was nearly 4 tenths quicker coming out the pits as well. So he's been quick everywhere, which is brilliant for him. Obviously on his home track and the track he likes.
Excellent stuff, and that's Kirchhoff then heading through the Audi S, taking a lot of curb through the first part, and that wonderful kind of opening second part of that section, and down towards the right-handers here at the end of the lap. Of course, we've got the, in fact, that second to last corner is called Kumo box, and then we've got the Ari Lindite box. That's Kumo corner, and then Ari Lindite corner back on the pit straight once again to start lap 63. 1:11.6 that time for Kirchhoff. Let's check out Hutu's lap time as he comes across the line. 1:11.9. And Hugo Luis, as he comes across, 1:11.4. So he's actually quicker than Luis once again. But again, he lost too much time trying to get up that undercut, putting a few laps before Kirchhoff and Hutu. And to be fair, I think that's costly because, of course, the running on a lighter fuel load really helped Kirchhoff and Hutu extend their advantage over Luis. And that's really cost the Brazilian a lot of time. And of course, this is a race we said he had to win. He had to get it in order to keep his championship chances alive. Hutu's going to finish ahead of him. And of course, maximum points is going to go to Atse Kirchhoff, running to keep it on the road for the last 8 laps or so.
Well, there's a very minimal difference between these guys in qualifying trim, but Atse Kirchhoff on the lower fuel load seems to be the most comfortable at the moment in comparison to Gregor Hutu and Hugo Louis in terms of consistency. Hugo Louis pumps in a brilliant lap, but then he'll maybe not do it on the next following 2-3 laps, and it's a little bit inconsistent from Hugo Louis at the moment, and it's not working out here for him around Zandvoort, where it's working nicely for Atse Kirchhoff, and Gregor Hutu has just have to play second fiddle because he cannot react to the pace of Atse Kirchhoff at the moment.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, obviously, at the moment, I guess, Rob, I'll get your opinion on this one. Of course, Luis in third place. Knowing the championship situation, what do you think is going through his mind right now? Oh, and there's someone off. I just seen someone head off. I was watching the battle on my screen for P8 between Jason Lovett and Emil Spindell, and just the pack marker just shot off into the gravel. Very lucky not for both cars not to collect him. But yeah, but what do you think is going through Luis's mind right now? Because of course he knows that he's losing points to both Hutu and of course Kirchhoff's taking points out of him as well. So going into the final 3 races of the season, I mean, Luis has got a mountain of a task that he can keep himself on the championship hunt. Effectively, if he doesn't get himself a great run in the next race, which is going to be Interlagos, unfortunately, that's pretty much going to be game over for his championship chances, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Gregor is in a massively strong position. All Hugo can do is keep finishing where he's finishing, and hope something happens to Gregor. You know, technical problems or whatever. But it's not likely. And they've both been out of this game for a long, long time. And they're both very, very good. It just seems, you know, Gregor's slightly better this year. I mean, Hugo's won it before, and as I said, alluded to earlier, he is and has been missing one of his teammates for most of the season, and when those two work as a pair a little bit more, Hugo is there or thereabouts. So it's all Gregor has to do in the next race basically is finish where as close to Hugo Luis as he is now, or you know, just swap positions, and that would be the Gregor's championship. So it's pretty much done by the shouting. But Hugo's a fighter. He'll want to win as many races as he can towards the end of the year, and maybe close the gap down a bit. He probably can't win it now, and barring a miracle, was one of those back markers. I think that was Timo Even, and got all kinds of sideways in front of him. Almost wiped him out of the race. He couldn't, and that would have sealed it. Nah, you know, it's they're good friends anyway, and it's just a great championship. And I'm sure Hugo will be back stronger for next season.
It was Christian Llorente that had the moment in front of the drivers in 8th and 9th. So
that was it?
Yeah, it's Christian Llorente sorted himself out. He got back going again, so he went off but came back on. Quick rundown again for you. It's Atse Kirchhoff leading the way, 3.7 seconds in front of Gregor Hutu. Hugo Lee is in 3rd place with Martin Piatella in 4th place. Simon Kittel is in 5th with Ben Corner in 6th. Fulvio Barrezzoni, he is in 7th place with Jason Lovett in 8th. Emil Spindell in 9th with Martin Kroenke rounding out the top 10 after a pretty instant-filled race in the end.
Absolutely, and go back to Atse Kirchhoff, of course, this is his 32nd WCS star. During that time, he's had some fantastic results. He's had 2 victories. He's had a pole position. That's his second pole position of the season, of course, of his career. 19 top 5s, 21 top 10s. He's led before the stats were updated 141 laps. He's done a fantastic job. Certainly, of course, he's going to add a lot more to that account as he heads now onto lap 67. Inside the final 5 laps, then, Ratzer, if he can smell that victory.
We've got a battle going on here between Jason Lovett and Emil Spindel, and Spindel's been getting closer and closer all throughout Sector 1, into Sector 2 at the moment, and Spindel's getting very, very, very close to Jason Lovett. They're coming up on a few back markers by the looks of it as well. Oh, Jason! Oh, nearly had a moment with one of the back markers there, and up the inside goes Spindel, trying to capitalise. Oh no! Oh wow, going side by side of the back marker, incredible! Who's going to come out in front? Spindel.
Barazzini, that was for position.
That wasn't a back marker. That was Barazzini.
Yeah, Barazzini had the issue there as well. So Barazzini's been taken by Spindel, and Spindel was able to capitalise passing Lovett as well. So great opportunity to driving from Spindel and sorting the car out.
That was like a great exit at Spa.
Exactly, that was incredible. That was superb.
That was hacking
from
it at Spa.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go, drag race. And it looks like Mr. Lovett is the quicker. Whoa! Oof, that was close.
How late was Spindel on the brakes around the outside of the high cambered corner of turn 1, and he's held that position. And Spindel in 7th place now as Jason Lovett was trying to come back at him. But Spindel, beautiful work from him. Like you said, hacking in the Spa, reminiscing of Spa this weekend as well for the F1. So good moment to have. And Spindel now is going to try and pull away from Jason Lovett.
So we're going to show a replay of that battle right now. What was great was that Spindel had the confidence to really stick that car around the outside. If you watch it down the pit straight, and just those two went side by side, a brilliant duel. And Spindel just got himself late, just that little bit later on the brakes, and forcing Lovett to back out of it. Dick Surtees authorities saying, "Excuse me, that's my track position if you don't mind, Jason, my boy," and just hold it in front. And a great move to hold on to P7. But I'm sure it's not finished just yet because they'll continue on. And continuing on we do, we're now on lap 68 of 71, and Kirchhoff now has a 3-second advantage over Gregor Hudec, who has pushed him hard, but just hasn't been able to match the pace of a Dutchman on his home circuit. And Hugo Luis, of course, is back in 3rd position, and just falling back and away from his championship charge. He knows that the next race is going to be, effectively, he can try as he might, but he just needs to hope that Hudec has a nightmare weekend and does not score any points. But I'm pretty sure with how consistent, as much as how quick Gregor Hudec is, then I'm pretty sure he'll get that. I don't call Gregor Hudec the world's fastest alien for nothing. He's certainly proved it time and time again. And in fact, Hudec's and Andre Butcher has also passed Barazzini. So
Barazzini's got a massive issue.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what's going on. His car's all over the shop. I don't know if I'll have a quick flip back through to see if I can find out why, but his car is not very quick.
I think it's a suspension problem because he's really struggling to turn the car, it looks like. So you see he's really backing off through the corners. You can see that car's not looking healthy. In fact, Paul Ilbrink's just gone past him as well. That, of course, for P12. So I think Timo Even is also quite in close proximity. In fact, that might have been him going past. It was. So Barrett's
it was, yeah. He's really struggling with that steering. The steering is really completely gone for him.
What's happened is he come out there, he's going into, looks like the slow left-hander, and he just got it all kinds of sideways on the start of lap 66 and hit the wall. Going into turn 4, the loop, the left-handed loop going back out into the fast twisty section, just lost it, hit the wall. And that's why he's going slowly.
So, penultimate time then through Huntsville. And
we've got 4 laps to go.
It's we head into this section, and Atsuo Kirchhoff really has been the measure of Gregor Hudec. Gregor's coming back at him, but it's just not enough. And I guess before we work the final lap, I mean, guys, it's been a fantastic race. We've had plenty of action, but despite knowing how quick Hudec and Luis is, obviously, having knowledge of a circuit like Zandvoort and being, just Kutu and Lee just haven't been able to match Kirchhoff practically all weekend. He's been, I think you'll agree, an absolutely stellar drive as he comes onto the final lap.
He's been absolutely superb, as I say, Kirchhoff, especially after the pit stop. After the pit stop, and the pace, the confidence, and the knowledge he had, even with this new tyre. And hopefully we'll grab an interview afterwards regarding the tyres as well. But the tyres and the confidence he had, did Artsy Kirchhoff, to pull away from Gregor Hutu and Hugo Louis in a fashion that he did, is mightily, mightily impressive. And he's fully deserving of this one as he's on his final tour of Zandvoort.
Simon Cattell just had an excursion off and just managed to save it before planting the wall. So they're all trying really hard in the latter stages of the race, but I'd be quite happy for P5 if I was Mr. Cattell and just wind it down a notch and make sure I finish, because that's a really good result for him.
Well, one man is certainly going to be happy as he makes his way down towards the Audi S for the final time. Hutu and Luis have pushed him hard all race, but any Dutch fans, get ready to go absolutely mental into Kumo for the last time. This man has won 2 races in his career. He's about to make it 3, and in of all places, at his home race at Zandvoort, it's round 13 of the iRacing World Championship for Artsy Kirchhoff. He wins here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. An absolutely stellar drive from the hometown hero, and he'll be going absolutely berserk in that cockpit. Gregor Hutu finishes 2.1 seconds back, and he pulls alongside to congratulate. That was a star drive from the Dutchman, and Hugo Luis comes home in 3rd position. He may feel that his championship is possibly all but over, but still a valiant effort to hold on to the final step of the podium. We wait now for Marty Piatella, who now has just about enough over Simon Cattell, but these two guys put in a fantastic effort nonetheless. P4 for Piatella and P5 for Cattell. Both these guys will be absolutely over the moon with that one. Of course, they head across the line, and we wait for the rest of the top 10 as they head across, and absolutely sensational result for all these guys, but particularly Kirchhoff, so congratulations to him.
Bäckman is the next one that will finish, and I think he's had a very, very quiet race for him, but an excellent result nevertheless, and Bäckman come across in 6th position.
Yeah, Spindell crosses the line in 7th after an entertaining drive and probably the pass of the race. And then, obviously, pass of the season, as Joni alluded in the background. As Jason Levitt crossed the line in P8, Martin Kroenke recovered to finish P9 after a few issues. Speeding in the pit lane, got himself a penalty, then suffered a lack of talent on cold tyres, and he's fought his way back to be the last car on the lead lap. And then Dion Burgess, P10, Andre Boccia, P11, my teammate Paul Ilbrink in P12, ahead of INX Racing's Timo Evenen in P13, Yudo Naromi in 14, Miguel Martin 15, Fabio Brozzoni with a ton of damage after crashing into the wall in the closing stages in P16, Joni Tamara at 17, Marcus Caton 18, Christian Lorente at 19, and that pretty much rounds out the guys that finished. The DNFs include Luke McLean, Enzo Benito, Pateri Cotavara, Jake Sturgis, Aleski Loma, Aleski Yusu Yakala, Yao Pino, and Ilka Happela, Mateus Ega, and Pierre B. Urbitzu.
What a race we've had here today at Zandvoort, and of course the Dutch fans, I'm pretty sure, will be absolutely going berserk, as we said, because it's Artsy Kirchhoff taking a home victory. What a fantastic story this is. He also becomes our 4th different winner in the championship this year, because of course 3 previous winners of course have been in the series so far: Gregor Hutu, Hugo Luis, and also Fulvio Barazzini back at Indianapolis. And hopefully, if we can, we'll grab a word with Artsy Kirchhoff if he's available. But I guess, guys, we could probably ask for driver of the day, and I think really there's only really one man you can give it to. I guess it's really, for me, Artsy Kirchhoff.
I'd have to agree.
There's two. I'm gonna go ML Spindell for that pass. That was awesome.
I was going to say the same thing. I was saying Artsy Kirchhoff for drive of the day, but move of the day, and probably pass of the season, Emil Spindell. That was incredible. And considering it wasn't actually the back marker in the end as well, I didn't realise it's for position. Actually capitalised on position as well and took 2 spots, basically out of 1 corner. It was a beautiful bit of driving from Spindell. But yeah, hats off and congratulations to Artsy.
What we're going to do is we're going to pass it over to Scott with his driver of the day Mr. Atsy Kirchhoff.
Absolutely. He's just joined us in the commentary box here. The man who's won his 3rd career victory in the iRacing WCS, but more importantly, he's taken it at his home race. I'm delighted to say that our race winner, Atsy Kirchhoff, is with us. Atsy, that was an absolutely stellar drive. You took the measure to both Hutu and to Luis. Fantastic job. And to do it at Zandvoort, it can't get much better, can it?
Hello everybody. Yeah, this is really good. This is really what I was hoping for. My luck with Zandvoort isn't the best, which I proved in the past, and it was time to pay back, and I really wanted to win this race. I practiced hard, and I just needed this one-time win to get my confidence back for the season, and I knew I had the pace in me. So yeah, qualification, I just needed to push as hard as I can. My laps weren't really smooth, but it did the job, and pole position, there's no better place to start from. So yeah, at the start, Gregor had a really good launch, so I saw him next to me, so I took all the risk in turn 1 because I knew that there's no way to overtake this other cars. And well, actually after that, Gregor was struggling the first laps, and I was able to create a comfortable gap, and from there, yeah, we just drove to the end of the race. We were on the same strategy, and yeah, not much happened after the pit stop. It was just finishing the laps. Don't take any risk. And you know, at Zandvoort, there's always 2/10 you can win by pushing really, really hard. But yeah, I didn't want to mess this up, so I drove really safe. I just wanted to make sure I finished first in a safe way.
Well, you did that in an absolutely stellar way, and congratulations to that. Nick, Rob, do you have any questions for our winner at all? Anything you particularly want to know? Because what a drive from Atsy. He did a stellar job today this afternoon.
Yeah, Atsy, having been around the circuit for a while, how much of a difference has the new tyre compound done for you and the confidence in the car? Because it looked like the cars were on rails. It looked miles easier to push to the limit and really show what talent you guys have. So how do you think that's worked out for you guys?
Well, to start with, iRacing has done a great job on the car. This is so much more fun to practice, to do your laps and prepare for the races. The car is just, it feels more natural. It feels like you're sitting in a real car, and you can push it as far as you could in a real car. Of course, I never drove an F1 car, but you know, it's the feeling on track. There's really, it's the feeling of tarmac is there, and that's a big step for iRacing, which I'm really happy with. So yeah, for us it was the task this week to find a setup to get the max out of this car, and yeah, that was quite a task because you have to give in some comfort if you want to find pace, and it's all about finding that limit of the setup. For how far can you push it? How far can you push it before it kills you on track, for example? So I think I found a good setup. Especially for qualification, I was really comfortable, and in the race it was just, you know, there's always more pressure there, and I just chose the safe setup, put it a bit to understeer, and well, in the end that worked really well.
I'd say it was. I thought I was going to talk about. I'd say that it's fantastic to see you on track in iRacing and to commentate over you on a victory around Zandvoort. But in terms of what you've learned from the car and the confidence you've gained with the car, do you believe that you can carry that over to the last few races of the season and then potentially pick up more victories?
Well, the upcoming races, I believe it's next is Interlagos, and we have Montreal, and if I'm not wrong, Suzuka. Well, Suzuka I love, and especially with this car, that's going to be a blast. And unfortunately, we're not going to do another run on Spa-Francorchamps. I really would like to try this car on that track. But Interlagos, yeah, that's a track on its own. There's no track which is comparable to that. And I have no clue how the car behaves there. I didn't do any laps there yet, but you know, I'm comfortable. I feel really good, and I hope we can pull this line towards the next couple of races, but yeah, we have to see how things work out.
Well, excellent job, Atse. Congratulations. We'll let you go and celebrate with your boys at Team Redline. Fantastic stuff, and fingers crossed you can keep it up for the next few races of the season. But for now, thanks so much for talking to us, Atse, and again, congratulations on a fantastic drive.
Thank you.
And I believe what I'll do is I'll hand it over to Nick, and he can lead the honours with this next interview, because we believe we've got 4th placed Marty Piatella, so he can talk about his race, particularly with his battle, I guess, with Simon Cattell. Nick, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Marty, you had a great drive there and a great battle going on between yourself and Simon Cattell there, and very close towards the end as well. So how did your race run for you?
Well, I'm a bit speechless at the moment. Best race ever for me, simply. I really didn't do that many mistakes. The only time I had some problems were after my pit stop, when I noticed that for some reason I had quite a good gap to Simon and Emil was dropped back for some reason, so I thought that okay, this is gonna be a safe race. So I don't know, I missed my lap times by half a second for a few laps, so I just had to pull myself back together, and in the end it worked okay, but Simon was really fast in the end, and I knew that if I wouldn't make a mistake he couldn't pass me, but making a mistake here is quite easy, so it was interesting all the way to the flag.
Well, you drove superbly to take that 4th position, and obviously watching your mirrors from the battle from Cattell there. Rob, any questions from yourself?
No, I just it's pretty much the same. I was going to ask the same thing as Atsy's, but Atsy kind of answered it all about the new tire compound has just made. To see you, Marty, up this high and drive so well, it's like it seems every driver's confidence has hit a new level, and you know you can really drive the car. Whereas before it was like, oh, is the car gonna bite back? And it just seems that you guys are just, this is how it should be. You know, you're having fun and you can really drive. So obviously, yeah, it's a new tire compound works for you, doesn't it?
Well, I'm one of the strange kids who always like whatever they're driving. I don't belong to the group that hates a certain car or a certain tire. As long as you can race hard with it, it works for me. Of course, I have to say that this is a huge step forward with the car. It's quite nice to drive. Actually, to me, it's actually a bit too easy to drive. It could punish you a bit for overdriving. I mean, especially for the second to last corner, the first 90 right and then hairpin to the left, you could just go there with full steering lock and
full attack mode.
yeah, like
we did see a few cars get punished. I mean, Luke McLean, Fulvio, they all had errors where it seems, you know, they oh, what was that, Joni? Sorry. I didn't want to mention that. I like Bateri. I didn't want to make him feel bad. But yeah, he ran out of talent as well. So the tyre model does seem to have, you know, you can still make mistakes, but mate, you drove brilliantly. To see you all out there is awesome. Top 5, wicked.
Thank you. I'm really happy. Well, I'm speechless.
Well, congratulations, Marty, again. Another brilliant drive for you to get yourself P4, and you should definitely savour that. And fingers crossed you can give more of the same in the final 3 races. So, but yeah, until then, great drive, and thank you very much for talking to us, Marty.
Thank you.
So thank you very much to both Atze Kirchhoff and to Marty Piatella for sticking around for interviews. Now, we talked about length a little bit about this brand new tyre compound that's been here, making its debut in the series here at Zandvoort. And just before this race, our regular commentator Will Vincent had a chat to Eric Hudec. Now, Eric himself on the iRacing team is the senior vehicle dynamics engineer, and Will had a specific chat with him about this brand new tyre compound. So let's just hear that now. Will Vincent talking to Eric Hudec.
Hello everyone, Will Vincent from Glacier TV, along with Eric Hudec, who, as you all know, is the Senior Vehicle Dynamics Engineer for the iRacing.com simulator. Now, Eric, the reason why we're with you today is because we finally got the NTM V5 on the Williams FW31. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. We've been spending quite a bit of time over the last year or so really putting a lot of attention to the version 5 tires. Obviously, most of our cars have version 4 at the moment, but we haven't really wanted to release version 5 up until most recently, because there's been a lot of little details that we were really close on figuring out. And every time something made some progress, we made progress on something else, and we're like, well, we're going to hold it off a little bit longer to get this other part integrated and working. So that's sort of how it's moved along, and we just felt that it was pretty good to release on a few of our cars, and this past build you got to drive it.
Of course, the biggest release with the NTM V5 was in partnership with the Lotus 49, which came onto the iRacing service still less than 1 month ago. How much of the data could you actually take from the Lotus 49 tires to then, speed up this release for the Williams car?
Actually, a lot. I mean, when you're working with a theoretical model, you still have to spend quite a bit of time tuning on it in order for it to work with the dynamics of the car. And what I learned with developing the tires for the Lotus, I was able to take pretty much straight away and apply them to the Williams. Now, I'd been sort of working tandem, working on the 49 and the FW31 over a period of months, and so it was fairly seamless to take a lot of what I was able to learn tuning on either car and apply it to the other.
Tell us a little bit about the differences between the NTM V4 and the NTM V5. Not only, of course, in the change in number, but exactly how the kind of tires work. Not only in the car, just doing one lap, but over the course of a run itself as well.
Well, with version 4 tires and earlier versions, we had some problems with how the rubber was actually behaving in terms of how it reacted to temperatures and sliding speeds and so forth. And we were basically able to come up with some additions to what we've already been using that was just a little more accurate. As it turns out, small changes in accuracy, whether it's intentional or by accident, turns out can sometimes have large impacts on the handling of race cars. So they're just little things over time that were improved and applied to this version 5, and it seems to have made quite a bit of impact on the performance of the cars.
And over the last couple of years in iRacing, we have heard, a number of blogs, a number of features by yourself and other people in the development of iRacing of just how critical those numbers are. I remember a couple of years ago, it all came down to rounding for a couple of things at the super speedway tracks. But just how important are the tyre models to enhancing the experience for sim racers?
I mean, it's the most important thing. I mean, you can get away with modifying the aerodynamics or the suspension geometries or the masses and inertias, and you're not going to get the same impact on the racetrack as you will with small changes to how a tire handles, whether it's ultimate grip or how the grip develops with slip or how the grip falls off or how grip reacts while you're throttling and cornering at the same time. All those things are very, very important to the way the car handles, and changing any specific detail on the chassis again or aero basically pales in comparison to the dynamics of a tire.
Now, let's turn our attention to the guys who's preparing to do 71 laps around the circuit park Zandvoort this weekend. What are the type of differences that these drivers are going to have to deal with this week compared to previous rounds of the 2013 World Championship Series in relation to the way the tyres handle on the racetrack over the course of a long run?
Well, obviously Zandvoort's a very high downforce track relative to Spa, for instance, and essentially they're going to have to worry probably more so about the temperatures of the tires. There was some work put into trying to peak the tires temperatures for the peak amount of grip, and depending on how everything goes, it may show up over a longer run that you can overheat your tires potentially. That's the hope, anyways. But we'll find out.
You talk about overheating. Are we going to be in a situation that we might, at some point in the future, get closer to having the ideas of blowouts or slow punctures or anything at all?
Sure, those are sort of second-order effects. At this point, we're still concentrating on core fundamentals, fundamental tire performance. But yeah, I mean, anything that increases the immersion of the sim is something that we're certainly interested in pursuing. It's just on the sort of tabled elements we're trying to work on, those are sort of backburnered at this point in time. But hopefully we'll get to those as soon as we can.
And of course, already we have now the Williams FW31, we've got the Lotus 49, and also we've got ourselves the Skip Barber on the NTMV5 list. I'll ask two questions here. First of all, is it the open wheel cars which kind of now have the advantage of getting the NTMV5 due to the fact that you've kind of cracked that muddle on those cars? And overall, what cars are we expecting to see the NTMV5 on next in the iRacing service in the next 3 to 6 months?
Well, actually, the NTM version 5 is also on the street stock, which is predominantly an oval car. I wouldn't say necessarily that the open wheel cars or sports cars or road course cars, however you want to classify, have an advantage over, say, stock cars or heavier cars. It's just at this point in time, we felt like these were the 3 cars we originally wanted to release on the new tire model version 5, and then the FW1 was so far along that we felt like we could put that out there. That's sort of not any indication of how we're going to proceed going forward. For instance, I'm currently working on the FW1 still with new advancements since the latest build, and I'm working on the high-level stock cars at the same time. The potential is that some additional GT cars might get it. Perhaps the Formula Mazda might get it. It's really depending on sort of a time frame thing and additional advancements. If we come up with a bunch of advancements that change sort of how the current cars on the new tire model version 5 are behaving or acting on the racetrack, we'll have to go back and sort of tune on those to some degree. So it's sort of a moving target on how many cars we want to release going forward in the next build. It really depends on how things pan out here in the next few weeks. If there's not a lot of changes with current cars, then we may be able to get a few more new cars on the version 5 model, and those would likely be a combination of classic oval cars or / road course cars.
I like that point there. It's always a moving target, and I think that's one of the things that people always forget, that it is such a moving target when it comes to developing. You see something new, you see it in all forms of racing. You have something that you begin working on and then you find something else, but how does that affect everything else? Incredibly interesting about the work and the effort that goes into tires. Got 2 more questions for you. The first one is, what is actually the hardest car that you have to work on for developing the tire simulation for iRacing?
Well, I would say it's twofold. For different reasons. The Lotus 49 was very complex, and we weren't going to release it on the old tire model. So that's one of the reasons why it was delayed for so long. We just didn't feel like the version 5 was good enough of a step forward yet, and that's why it took so long to come to market. That car in particular, because it's so light, has such hard tires, makes no downforce, but yet sees incredible top speeds. It was very hard to sort of manage to sort of get the tires in a place where we felt like, yes, this is definitely strong, that we can release it. It handles well, it handles like we believe it should, and that was difficult. On the flip side, the high-level stock cars see no higher load in all of motorsports, and that at very, very high speeds. So that causes a different problem. So you end up having lightweight cars with high speed with lots of power versus very, very highly loaded cars with still not as much downforce as, say, an F1 car, but at high speed, at high load, and those cause sort of similar problems, but just in different ways. The issues sort of show up in different regimes of performance. And
final question, again, looking into the future, is there gonna perhaps one day be the possibility that the drivers, for example, in the World Championship Series, get the option to race in different compounded tyres? Is that something that iRacing are considering working on at all?
Yeah, for sure. Again, that's sort of an infrastructure issue rather than a tire modeling issue. That's something that's certainly something we're certainly looking at. We've been talking about that for quite some time. It's just we don't actively have unlimited amount of time to work on things. So that's just on the priority list. It's working its way up. We definitely want to get there, and it's going to take some extra manpower to do so. And Dave's fully booked, and I'm fully booked, Grant's fully booked, and Ian's fully booked. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to get to a point where we can add that, because there's a number of cars in our service that can run on different compounds, and we obviously would like to have that available for our members.
I kind of lied. This is now going to be the final question. Of course, you talk about all these other people. Is there anyone who you'd like to give a shout out to, or anyone else, because you are the public face in many ways of tyres for the iRacing service, along with Dave K. So is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out for all these huge developments that's come on in the last, 2 years on iRacing?
I mean, predominantly it comes down to Dave Kemmer, and he's just really the brainchild of everything that we do. I mean, he's one of the brightest, if not the brightest man I've ever met, and that's good for everybody. That's good for the members. It's good for the employees at iRacing. Grant Reeve is also he's sort of quiet. He's a quiet guy, but he's really heavy into the development as well, and his work's much appreciated.
Well, Eric, thank you very much for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule to talk to us here today on Glacier TV. Eric Hudec, ladies and gentlemen, the Senior Vehicle Dynamics Engineer for the iRacing.com racing simulation. I think we can all once again say iRacing, the world's premier racing simulation. I've been Will Vincent. Let's head it back downstairs.
Thank you very much to Will for conducting the interview, and of course for Eric Hudec to giving his thoughts and his views on the brand new tyre compound, which we saw make its debut today here at Zandvoort for round 13 of the 2013 iRacing World Championship GP Series. Before we quickly wrap up, let's give you a very quick recap of how the top 10 panned out, and of course it was home favourite Atso Kirchhoff taking the victory by 2.1 seconds from championship leader Gregor Hutu, and Hugo Luis, his main championship rival, didn't get the result he was expecting today, but still it's third place, but he finished 12.4 seconds back from race winner Kirchhoff. Marty Piatella, who we heard from, absolutely over the moon with his fourth position, and also so should Simon Cattell. P5 for him, a fantastic result here in the iRacing WCS. Rest of the top 10 looks like this. It's Ben Cornett with P6, 57.5 seconds back behind Kirchhoff, the winner. Emil Spindel with a fantastic pass on Jason Lovett to manage to hold on for P7. And then Jason Lovett, of course, finishing P8. Martin Kroenke, after his mistakes early on, after his pit stop, managed to recover and gets himself P9. And Dion Verges rounds out the top 10 for this afternoon's race. And that pretty much wraps up this afternoon's broadcast with iRacing 1. I guess we get some final thoughts. I think really, Nick, I guess it's fair to say we've all been treated to a fantastic race. But of course, for me and yourself, we normally commentate Norway FSR. So I think I think it's fair to say you can't deny it. It's been a massive, as we said, massive privilege for both of us, and I'm pretty sure you've enjoyed it as much as I've had.
It's been a true pleasure to commentate on iRacing. It's a new one to both of us, as you just said, and thank you to the guys that got us involved. And a little bit of a bumpy start, but we got there in the end. But thoroughly enjoyable race. Great to see Atse win, and also be introduced to some new talent and new drivers I've not previously seen, but certainly we'll keep an eye out going forwards. And I think we've also been very fortunate and lucky that we have seen this new tyre model be introduced and had exceptional racing from it.
Most definitely cannot disagree with that, of course, and definite names that, of course, me and Nick are certainly going to be looking out for through our travels, commentating and whatnot through the sim racing and the community alike. Also, thanks to Rob as well. Rob, of course, you've provided some very valuable insight as part of one of the Radicals racing team. Your final thoughts on today, of course, it's first time experience commentating with us, of course, and again, thoughts on that, and of course, a great day's racing and a great win for Atse.
Yeah, massively brilliant win for Atse. Flag victory. But Emil Spindel, new hero. What a pass. Pass of the season. Fantastic. And you guys, to step in and commentate, and it's been a pleasure. Really, really, really good job by all of you. So thank you very much.
Well, of course, I think I can definitely have to say it's been a pleasure to commentate alongside Rob, and of course, myself and Nick have to say a massive thanks to everyone at GlacierTV, to Will Vincent, of course, unfortunately couldn't make it today due to being taken ill, of course, to Joni, of course, has been helping out, to Jana as well, and to everyone at GlacierTV. Thank you so much for giving me and Nick the opportunity to do this. Whether or not this will be the last time we do this, hopefully not, might be, might not, but of course, for you guys, the circus moves on. It was our final European race of the season. We're now going to the final 3 flyaways. The next time you'll see the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series will be on the 7th of September. That is in 2 weeks' time. We head to Sao Paulo, Brazil once again for the second time. Interlagos circuit, another 71 laps awaits the drivers there, with the potential that Gregor Hudec could wrap up another World Championship. All he has to do is keep in close proximity to Hugo Luis, and it's done and dusted. Then, of course, we go to Suzuka, and the season finale. The series makes its debut on the brand newly added Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. That's to come. Of course, you will see this race in 2 weeks. Probably not sure if you'll see us again, but of course, myself, Scott Woodwiss, from Nick Rowland, and of course, from Rob Cuss, and of course, thanks, of course, to Joni and Jani who's been helping us as well. Thank you so much for watching. That's a Kirchhoff's your winner today. Can you do it again in 2 weeks' time? Stay tuned for then. But until then, bye for now.